Chapter 289. The reappearance of the Sound Storm. The city master of Golden Crow City was an extremely mysterious individual. No one knew his origins, and nothing was learned from the spies that the factions had sent in. Before the battle started, this young person had sat on the lucky cloud, a mask-wearing female Shio standing by his side, his expression calm. From beginning to end, he had only spoken 2 words, kill. He completely didn't realize that he was the center of everyone's attention. No one dared to underestimate this young person. Even if he looked very young, so young that it seemed almost impossible. But no one dared to doubt his abilities. How many people could found such a property in Little Mountain Jia? The trap just now had also been outside of everyone's expectations. The results had also been unexpected. At the most dangerous moment, everyone's hearts suddenly rose for some unexpected reason when they saw him suddenly stand up. After he stood up, Mo detected that the hard lightning released by the formation battle watchtowers had stabilized again. It was time. His mind moving. Lil, Pagoda, who was connected to his mind, suddenly started to rapidly spin. The light from the golden sun grew, and turned to a flaming ball of fire. The fire followed the threads that dangled down in the sky and spread throughout the formation. When it passed by a ring of light, the ring of light would shake and lightly ring. For some unknown reason, this sound made everyone's hearts jump. It was like a golden gada's blow, deep and murderous. Clang, clang, clang. The continuous and rapid string of deep chimes made their minds tremble. Like a relay, the chimes became even deeper and powerful, accompanied by an ethereal chanting that made their hearts beat rapidly. If people from Sky Moon Jia saw this scene, they would definitely recall that scene at the sword test conference. Second Elder's expression changed slightly. As a Ningmai third stratum, his sense of danger was more sensitive. Not good. Clang. Like the ringing of a faraway temple's bell, this ring seemed to strike his heart. The sound was first too soft to hear, but then suddenly rose. The hard and dignified presence was like water breaking through the dam and sweeping forth unstoppably. The strongest killing move of the Skyring Moonchime formation, Moonchime Soundstorm. This, Moonchime Soundstorm, had tormented the disciples from various sects at the sword test conference. Now that he had added the 4th grade Buddha sound hoop, and the Skyring Moonchime formation used the 36 formation battle watchtowers as a foundation, it was much stronger than the Skyring Moonchime formation made that day using metal nails and jade tablets. Mo had also discovered the formation technique of the 4th grade Buddha sound hoop. Buddha chant. The Buddha sound was like a knife that killed without blood. If one wasn't careful, it would corrode their minds and was unable to be dodged. In everyone's eyes, an invisible ripple suddenly exploded outwards with Golden Crow City as the center. The outer hall Shioja were unable to dodge in time and received the full brunt of the attack. No one escaped. Shioja who were slightly weak instantly bled from their orifices, their innards pulverized. Shioja who were stronger, like Second Elder, paled, and their figures couldn't help but pause. This pause was a chance to the Shioja inside Golden Crow City. The hard lightning from every formation battle watchtower instantly smashed towards the remaining Shioja. The Buddha sound in the ears of the Golden Crow City's people was like a blessing from the heavens. Their exhaustion disappeared, and their minds cleared. The energy of the 2 camps instantly grew. With the aid of the Buddha sound hoops chanting, the Shioja inside the formation battle watchtower performed above their usual skill. The hard lightning they shot was frighteningly accurate. The Shioja who had been wounded by the Buddha sound were at their weakest state. Even if they had the energy to block the hard lightning, they were still penetrated. Bloom after bloom of blood-red blossoms appeared in the sky, and the energy of death rose. After a single wave of hard lightning, there were only a few Shioja left in the sky. Second Elder was one of them. His face was ashen as he looked dazedly at the corpses on the ground. He suddenly raised his head, shouting furiously with all his power, "Master of Golden Crow City, do you dare fight?" On the lucky cloud, Mo rolled his eyes. Idiot. Even Silly Bird couldn't resist rolling her eyes at Second Elder. Mo saw there was no noise from below him, and was very discontent. He shouted down, What are you doing standing around? Do you want to invite him in for dinner? The formation battle watchtowers below had a ruckus. Whoosh, a large patch of hard lightning flew out and dazzled the eyes. Second Elder's eyes were open very wide, his face filled with disbelief. There were at least a dozen hard lightning bolts that struck him. He stared fixedly at Golden Crow City as he dropped from the sky like a bag of sand. The 1,500 people had all been killed. The outer hall Xiozha lost their capabilities of speech. Each of them had pale white faces. They had had smooth sailing previously and had only needed to use the slightest of efforts to flatten the factions that had tried to resist. They had never encountered such fierce fighting before. Outside the Golden Crow City, more than 1,000 burnt black corpses were scattered everywhere. Dismembered limbs and flesh could be seen everywhere. The Ling power turbulence lingering in the air reminded everyone just how cruel and fierce the fight had been. Even He Xiang, who wanted Second Elder to die, did not feel any joy right now. His face was as pale as paper. He had finally realized how idiotic his optimistic prediction had been. This bone was much harder than they had imagined. The dark circle of spectators was also completely silent. They had remained here because they wanted to see a good fight, but right now, they were shocked by the fierceness of this fight. Usually, everyone would charge up together, furiously competing to take the spoils from the corpses. But looking at the mountains of corpses, they had no impulse at all. They only dazedly looked. The middle-aged person and the large man also had dazed faces. They were also shocked. Yamo were rampaging about now. Everyone knew that large-scale battles could not be avoided. But when they finally saw a large-scale battle, they found that these battles were far crueler than they could imagine. What is the use of individual bravery? The large man sighed emotionally with slight dejection. For a long time, increasing individual strength and going to Bloody Sky Metropolis Jie to become famous was the path to success of every young Xiozha. Now, he found that the individual strength they had pursued with such hardship was almost ineffective in large-scale battles. The middle-aged person knew the large man had received a blow and urged, "Darren, there is no need to be demotivated. If a Jin Dan came, the results would be completely the opposite." The large man's expression cheered up slightly. Upon further thought, he found that it was right. If a Jin Dan came, they would have defeated this city long ago. They had all seen the strength of Jin Dan experts before. Even such a strong city would probably be unable to stop the steps of a Jin Dan expert. Contrasting the deathly silence, the cheers coming from inside Golden Crow City rolled into the surroundings. In reality, Golden Crow City was also on its last legs. The Ling power of the two camps was almost completely used up. If they didn't have so many people with such ferocity and unfettered disregard of the consequences as they released the waves of hard lightning, they would have quickly left all of the Xiozha unable to even stand up. Lil Pagoda was drooping. That moonchime soundstorm had used all of its power. Zuoremo carried it in his hand with heartache. He had to throw a few talismans to it before it recovered some energy. "Good son, Daddy knows you are the best." Lil Pagoda was very happy at receiving praise and twirled in Zuomo's palm. Silly Bird looked disdainfully at Zuomo. That disdain seemed to say, "Fooling little child." Zuomo faltered slightly. However, he decided to disregard this unlikable person. He couldn't help but mutter inside. Silly Bird's expressions were becoming increasingly varied. It seemed she had gained many benefits this time. Scanning Silly Bird, Zuomo increasingly felt this one was fat and rich. He wondered if he could squeeze some oil out. Seeming to detecting the danger coming from Zuomo, Silly Bird hurriedly increased her distance from Zuomo. Lil Fire, on the opposite hand, found it fun and chirped. Like a bubble, it slowly flew over to join the fun. "Boss, outside the city." Bowie put out his head and twisted his lips at the outside. "Outside the city?" Zuomo's expression was puzzled, and then he realized. He rubbed his chin and said, "Get the guard camp to go." Shu Long's expression was stern as he methodically listened to the Xiozha that came to pass on orders. In reality, his attention was completely focused on the bellows coming from inside the necklace. "First mission, all of you, pay attention. Whoever makes a mistake, whoever makes me lose face, hee, just wait. As the first batch of subordinates of this seat for nearly 1,000 years, if you humiliate my name as a Sky Yao, I will kill all of you. Once out of the city, instantly assemble in the formation. Take out everything you have trained usually. Seeing the Xiozha who had delivered the orders leave, Shu Long swallowed and said, "But Darren, boss orders is only for us to take the spoils. My ass. Using the troop of a honored Sky Yao to do something like pick up trash? I cannot bear the embarrassment. Listen well, this mission is your monthly test. If you make a mistake, there will be good days for you next month." His heart shook, and coldness shot up from the bottom of his feet. The monthly test was the most terrible days in a month. Every time it occurred, wails rang into the landscape. This Darren was not some generous one. It would be more accurate to describe him as one that would always get even. If they provoked him this time, everyone could not live in the future. Also, in the deepest part of his heart, he wanted boss to see their results. Even though they did not have to worry about food, shelter, there was no hard labor, and they only cultivated every day, but whenever danger approached, the boss would never think of the existence of guard camp. All of guard camp were holding a breath. They knew their foundations were terrible, and their strength weak. They could not do anything major. Consequently, everyone cultivated using their life. Injuries due to cultivation were the most frequent event in guard camp. This breath was like an invisible whip furiously striking them. Had their day finally come? Under Shu Long's weathered face, his heart started to ripple. He adjusted the Ling armor on his body and suppressed his excitement. He tried to make his steps as steady as usual and walked out of the tent. Outside the tent, everyone in guard camp had finished gathering. Everyone had excited expressions. It was possible to see that they were trying their best to suppress their excitement. Looking at the organized troop with new uniforms, Shu Long suddenly blanked. The scenes of the past flowed like water past his eyes. Panicked and in a sorry state as they huddled together, their clothing unable to cover their bodies, their hopeless and dead eyes. He took a deep breath and tightened his grip on the talisman on his hand. All of the scenes in his mind instantly shattered. Looking at the gazes full of life, his gaze became determined as he ordered, "Depart." Chapter 290, The guard camp steps onto the stage. He Xiong's heart was beating like a drum. The other elders were all pale. They had not recovered from watching the battle just now. 1,500 people had all died. Their power instantly shrank by 1/5. The corpses scattered across the mountains made it seem like a hellish landscape. The elders who had been scrambling for the opportunity to attack the city first were now filled with fear. If it had been them, truthfully, second elder had performed very well. He had a great weapon in the cloud formation silk. He had the bravery to lead from the front. None of the elders here could have performed better than he had, but he still died. The whole troop had died. It wasn't that he hadn't performed well, but the enemy was too strong. What kind of formation battle watchtower was that? The hard lightning it released seemed endless like a tide. If it wasn't that they had seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe that there were such powerful formation battle watchtowers in this world. Even if there were, how could they appear in this minuscule little mountain Jia? If this came out, how could everyone live? And that Skyring Moonchime Formation? Could that still even be called the Skyring Moonchime Formation? Bro, you weren't the only one that played around with a Skyring Moonchime Formation before. Are you sure that what you have is still a Skyring Moonchime Formation? The elders looked at Golden Crow City with sorrowful rage. Bro, be nice, you are so strong. Don't come running to Little Mountain Jia to steal food from us little people. But even He Xiong didn't know what to do next. Continue to fight? He looked at the elders around him. Every one of them was dispirited and had lost their courage. Even if there was an elder that had the courage to attack, the people under them wouldn't be willing. He could clearly feel the morale of his troops had reached bottom. But with everyone watching them, he felt he couldn't retreat like this and lose face. Just as He Xiong was struggling with his dilemma, Golden Crow City acted again. Many people suddenly appeared on top of the walls of Golden Crow City and jumped down from the walls. Xiang's eyes widened as he stared in disbelief at the people continuously jumping down from Golden Crow City's walls. Were they going to attack? For an unknown reason, he suddenly shook. He turned to look at the other elders and stilled again. The elders that had surrounded him had all disappeared. Only when he turned his face around did he see that they had retreated 3 zhang away from him. Terror was on everyone's faces. The movement of Golden Crow City had attracted everyone's attention. The Xiuzhe that were watching from afar moved their eyes towards this group of people that flooded out of Golden Crow City. This group of people were all wearing black heavy armor, but their movements were light and agile. After watching for a while, everyone had puzzled expressions. Almost no one used heavy armor among the various types of Ling armor because the majority of Xiuzhe battles were in the air. The heavy Ling armor would greatly affect their speed. The popular Ling armors were mostly light and carved with formations to be activated during battle. Usually, the defensive abilities of the Ling armor were not reliant on the Ling armor itself, but depended on the strength of the Ling shield activated from the Ling armor. It was possible to see that the black Ling armor on these people was very heavy. Only body-cultivating Xiuzhe could support such heavy Ling armor. Looking at the nimble movements of these people, they did seem like body-cultivating Xiuzhe. There was a continuous stream of armor-wearing Xiuzhe jumping off the city walls. Their movements were extremely quick and well-trained, flowing like water. A group of Xiuzhe quickly gathered outside the city, and when the number of Xiuzhe reached 1,000 people, the spectators all inhaled sharply. Xiang and the others had ashen faces. Who said that Golden Crow City didn't have many people? It was very hard to calculate how many people were needed to man the 36 formation battle watchtowers, but it definitely wasn't less than 1,000 people. Now, 1,000 body-cultivating Xiuzhe had come out. How many people were really hiding inside Golden Crow City? Xiang didn't even have the energy to swear. The other elders could only stare at each other. 1,000 heavy armor Xiuzhe quickly gathered, their movements clean and without any fuss. In a short span, they finished organizing their formation. 1,000 armor-wearing Xiuzhe stood solemnly without a sound. All noise had disappeared. The wind blew past and stirred the dust and dried leaves to swirl in the air. The killing intent was as cold as a knife. The 1,000 people were like a heavy rock pressing on everyone's chest, making them unconsciously feel that breathing was slightly difficult. Shu Long had a small headache. First, they could not resist Boss' mission. Boss had told them to collect the spoils. If he went on a different path, Boss definitely would not be happy. Even he wasn't willing to do so. However, the words of the Darren inside the necklace could not be dismissed. That was his direct teacher. If that person was offended, his days would become very dark. His mind suddenly moved and had an idea. The people that were paying attention to the Black Armor Troop were of 2 different opinions. One side chided the master of Golden Crow City for being so dim to create such a trashy troop. No matter if it was Sword Xiu or Diana Xiu, they emphasized the ability to fly. The mainstream battlefield was the sky. If this group of people flew up into the air, they would be like turtles, only able to wait for death. The other side was very curious. Up until now, every move of the master of Golden Crow City made people feel amazed. How could such a person make such a shallow and low-level mistake? There had to be a deeper meaning. The middle-aged person and the large male held the second opinion. It's very hard to say with precedent. The eyes of the middle-aged person flashed as he said gravely, "Only people that can break convention are true heroes." The large male stared at the Black Armor Troop outside the Golden Crow City. Other people might feel that this troop was hilarious, but he had seen true elite forces before. This troop couldn't be called elite, but it seemed to have a presence that others could not dismiss. Other people might not concern themselves with this, but the large male knew it wasn't so easy to form such a presence. This master of Golden Crow City was really talented. The eyes of the large male became even hotter. Hardship Guard was an extreme MO skill. It wasn't possible to cultivate unless one had perseverance. If they could tolerate pain, the progress was far faster than any other MO skill. When that king first obtained Hardship Abyss, he had felt it wasn't bad, but thought that it didn't progress quickly enough. He didn't have the patience to slowly nurture his personal guard, so he had made the appropriate changes to the skill and made the newly formed hardship guard. It became a quick MO skill, but the pain involved naturally multiplied. To the king, he had countless people. Even if the elimination rate was astounding, he didn't care at all. He probably would never have thought that this MO skill would one day be given to a group of Xiao slaves. These Xiao slaves had gone through many hands. Those that could survive were those with resilience. Also, Pu Yao naturally didn't have any kind of emotions like pity. To prove the value of Sky Yao, he had furiously urged them on. Today was the first time the guard camp showed themselves. What did this weird troop want to do? Just as everyone was puzzled, they saw the organized ranks suddenly spread out. Each troop was like a stream of water, suddenly turning to 10 smaller flows. With 36 of them to a platoon, they quickly sprinted among the mountain. Their speed was very fast, the heavy armor on their bodies seemed to not affect them at all. What was most praiseworthy was that even at such fast speeds, the shape of the troop was not affected at all. At the top of Golden Crow City, Zhou Emo made a small sound of surprise. After working with formations for so long, he was abnormally sensitive to formations. With one glance, he recognized the platoon of 36 people were maintaining a kind of battle formation. His mind moving, he opened his Ling eyes. Above each little troop, black energy shifted like dozens of black serpents swimming around, brimming with killing intent. Zhou Emo instantly jumped in fright. What battle formation was this? The killing intent in this formation was so heavy that Zhou Emo had never seen anything comparable. Even the killing intent of Gong Sun Cha's Vermilion Bird Camp was far less than the guard camp's present battle formation. As expected, Pu Yao still had a trick up his sleeve. Zhou Emo rubbed his chin as he thought. Sweat continued to flow down Shu Long's head as he heard the Darren inside the necklace bellow. What have you trained? This is only the 36-person little MO kill, you've only gotten to this. Then that 1,000 people great MO kill, can you even train? Pu Yao didn't have any of the composure that he had in front of Zhou Emo. His shouts were like thunder and made Shu Long's heart tremble. He was clearly very dissatisfied. Shu Long's orders quickly passed to every little team. Everyone's heart shook. Already full of desire for battle, they raised themselves to 120% of their usual attentiveness. The killing intent of each platoon became even more tangible. At this time, even the Xiozhe who didn't have Ling eyes could see the extraordinary aspects. Such keen killing intent. For the first time, the middle-aged person had a shocked expression. His expression was grave as he said, "This formation has the heaviest killing intent that this subordinate has seen in life. I wonder who could create such a vicious formation. Any formation that can kill people is a good formation." The large male was very liberal with this point. He stared attentively at the constant movements of the black armor camp guards. The killing intent was tangible. There were black snakes that seemed to be flipping above the heads of each platoon and inspired fear when looked upon. The people that had been mocking Zhou Emo before were gaping now as their hearts beat rapidly. Even though they had not seen this black armor guard troops attack, but just this shocking killing intent was enough to rob many of their courage. As powerful as expected, Zhou Emo, who possessed the Ling Eye, could see more clearly than the others. Once they were touched, the killing intent that had turned to black serpents would instantly coil around the enemy. Each platoon was like a wild beast that devoured people. Inside the killing formation, the pupils of each camp guard had turned bloody red and exuded a terrifying presence. If it wasn't that they cultivated hardship guard and had indefatigable personalities, they would have broken under such dense killing intent. Zhou Emo couldn't help but be curious what it would be like if this battle formation encountered an enemy. He really wanted to go ask Pu Yao, but if he went to ask at this time, that guy's nostrils would face the sky. He ended the thought. Suddenly, he finally responded. "Didn't I tell them to go strip the talismans? What are they rehearsing for?" Upon second thought, when he looked at the ground full of corpses and scattered talismans, Zhou Emo instantly was furious. It definitely was Pu Yao that was the culprit. So much Jingshi. Just as he was going to swear, he suddenly saw out of the corner of his eye dozens of sword lights flew in from the horizon. Chapter 291, Hongjun Xian. Dozens of Xiuzhe with flying swords under their feet and their bodies flashing with light, their faces cold, landed among the outer sect disciples. The first among them pointed and started to scold He Xiang just as he stopped. He Xiang, you have guts. Eldest Shi Xiang was killed. You dare to conceal this and not report it. He instantly ignored He Xiang's explanation, his face cold as he swept the other elders. This seat is old forefather's second disciple Hongjun Xian. Starting from now, this seat will be managing the outer hall. Anyone that disobeys will be killed. The expressions of the other elders all changed, but no one dared to speak up. Many of them had seen Hongjun Xiang before. This seat will give you a chance to make up for your crimes. Hongjun Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent. He pointed at the guard camp outside of Golden Crow City and said darkly, "This seat will permit you to take 1,000 people. If you can defeat this group of country bumpkins, I will pardon your crimes. If any of you do not dare to fight, then don't blame this seat for being unmerciful." The faces of the elders were ashen. They didn't know the battle capabilities of that troop, but the killing intent was so dense their hearts trembled. They couldn't gather up any courage when they looked. What? Hongjun Xian's face grew even colder. You are not willing? The other Clear Sky sect disciples also looked with unfriendliness. If He Xiang and the others dared to make the slightest move to rebel, they would act. He Xiang's face was like ash. He knew that he didn't have the chance to change anything now. Clear Sky sect's patience with them had reached its limit. He said difficulty, "I'm willing." There was only one route left to him, seeking life in death. Hongjun Xian and the others wouldn't give them any other route. As to escape, he never thought about it. No matter how big Little Mountain Jie was, there wasn't another place that would take him in. Seeing He Xiang speak, the gazes of the other elders were undecided, especially the few elders with Ningmai third stratum cultivation who now had thoughts of fleeing. But the Clear Sky sect disciples had encircled them. They also knew that escape would not be so simple. They silently stood next to He Xiang. Hate flashed across the eyes of the Clear Sky sect disciples like Hongjun Xian. The death of Huang Zhuoguang was like a lightning bolt on a clear day for Clear Sky sect. These Clear Sky sect disciples mostly idolized eldest Shi Xiang. The death of eldest Shi Xiang, especially in Little Mountain Jie where they had never felt there was any danger before, was unacceptable to them. He Xiang knew explaining would not be useful. He didn't speak and picked 1,000 people. The sudden arrival of the Clear Sky sect disciples instantly caused the battlefield that had relaxed to become tense again. Everyone's eyes gathered on Hongjun Xian's body. This made Hongjun Xian feel excited like he had never been before. Eldest Shi Xiang wasn't here, so it was now his turn. He had waited for this day for a long time. If he could take down this city, control of Little Mountain Jie would land back in the hands of the sect. His status would rise with this accomplishment and would certainly take eldest Shi Xiang's place as the new leader of the younger generation of disciples. As to He Xiang and the others, they were useless in his eyes. If it wasn't for them, the situation of Little Mountain Jie would never have gotten to such a terrible state. The Clear Sky sect disciples are like this, they really cannot be cured. The large male shook his head, his tone filled with unspeakable dislike. He, those whom the heavens wish to destroy, they first make mad. Darren should not argue with them. The middle-aged person laughed lightly. That's true. The large male nodded, and then had an expression of anticipation. That's a good thing. This way, I can see just where this black armored troop is special. It wasn't just the spectators that saw the change in the outer hall. Shu Long had also noticed it. His expression instantly became solemn. Glancing at Boss on the top of Golden Crow City, he conversed in a low voice with the Darren in the necklace. Darren, they seem to want to attack. Attack! The voice of the Darren inside the necklace instantly became excited. Good. Very good. Kill all of them. Shu Long jumped in fright. This Darren's killing intent was really strong. However, he didn't take the words seriously. He examined the situation and saw there was no time to gather the spoils of victory. He instantly became slightly depressed. Boss had sent them to scalp, but it seemed that they could not finish the mission now. Shu Long was very discontent that they could not complete the first mission that Boss gave the guard camp. But at this moment he knew what was more important. The other had divided out 1,000 people. It definitely wasn't to invite them to a meal. He did not hesitate and ordered for the platoons to gather. The guard camp that had spread out on the ground instantly gathered with Shu Long as the center. Shu Long seemed to be a great magnet to attract them to him. The heavy black armor was not a hindrance. Even though they could not fly, but each person's movements were nimble. With a few jumps, they returned to the camp formation. Zhou Emo nodded on the inside as he sat on the lucky cloud. Shu Long was quite dependable. He didn't speak, but had the formation battle watchtowers prepare to give aid at any time. Any troop would be useless in the end if they did not undergo real battle. Before, he had assumed that the guard camp wouldn't show any results after such a short period of time. Now, he found that the progress of guard camp far had surpassed his imagination, and instantly felt some confidence. That short encounter just now had almost consumed all of the battle capabilities of the eastern and western camps. The aid that the formation battle watchtowers could give was limited. Zhou Emo could only direct them to hurry and recover Ling power. He was also very curious what powerful moves guard camp had. With his understanding of Pu Yao, if this guy didn't have a grasp of the situation, he definitely wouldn't come out to embarrass himself. Pu Yao could only ever do one thing: show off. The guard camp merged back with their fastest possible speed. Shu Long did not order for them to return to the city, but to prepare to welcome the enemy outside the city walls. They have their test and you have yours. The words of the Darren in the necklace caused Shu Long to pale in fright. I've taught so much. If you worked hard, you should be able to deal with this kind of minor situation. Pu Yao's voice didn't hold any emotion. If you can't deal with it, you don't need to live. Your boss might be soft-hearted, but if you are useless, you would only be a burden. Shu Long wasn't angry. He was several decades old, and had been a Xiu slave for more than 20 years. What pain hadn't he encountered, what hadn't he seen? Darren's words were not pleasing to hear, but they were not wrong. He tightened the black armor on his body, and raised his head. Determination was the only thing remaining in his eyes. If they couldn't deal with something as minor as this, how could they face Boss? He slowly scanned around him and said in a deep voice, "This is our first battle. I know everyone has waited for this day for a long time. We cultivated with our lives, for what? For this battle. Even if we die today, we need to build up the reputation of the guard camp." His voice was not loud, but every person in guard camp was suddenly full of passion. Zhou Emo could not hear their words. He looked with shock at the roiling black energy above guard camp suddenly become somewhat stronger. It became as black as ink in his eyes. Even he couldn't help but have a strong feeling of danger. Such a powerful battle formation. Zhou Emo was stunned. An eerie purple light suddenly lit up in the eyes of the female Xiu as she stared at the guard camp. With his Ling eyes, he saw threads of black energy sprout out of each camp guard. As the black energy came out, it would enter the formation and swim inside the formation. In the blink of an eye, the formation was filled with countless small threads of black energy. "Let's go," He Xiang said heavily. The other elders silently took out their flying swords and activated their Ling armor. Behind them, 1,000 Xiuzhe took out their Ling armor and activated it as well. The sky was once again covered in light of various colors. Everyone's gazes once again gathered on these two troops that were going to collide. Based on strength, the outer hall definitely was at an advantage. Their Ling armor was far better than the heavy armor of guard camp in the eyes of many Xiuzhe. It was the first time they had seen people use such clumsy and rough heavy armor. Based on individual power, the outer hall was at an even greater advantage. There were several Ningmai third stratum Xiuzhe among the outer hall elders. As for the guard camp, even though the scripture they cultivated was very obscure, their individual power was average, and there was no eye-catching expert. Many people unconsciously glanced at Zhou Emo and shook their heads. Hong Jun Xian smirked icily. Heavy armor, they still think this is thousands of years ago. They even managed to come up with something like this antique. Who told me that they are very rich? So many from the outer hall have been killed by this group? Trash is trash. Even if they entered our clear sky sect, they would not be acceptable. Hee, that's true. They can't compare to Shixiang. It's easy now that Shixiang is in command. A shitty flattered. Not just Golden Crow City. Even if there was a few more, Shixiang can easily conquer them. Hong Junxian was content. When we take down this city, everyone's service will be repaid. Shixiang is wise. We can only benefit from association from following Shixiang. The other shitty flattered Hong Junxian. Hong Junxian's ego was satisfied like it never had been before. He waved a hand. Let's see just how useful this group of trash is. The other people's eyes all turned to He Xiang. Let's kill. He Xiang didn't waste words, and took his sword to charge at the very front. The other elders didn't speak either and tightly followed. The 1,000 Xiozhi didn't dare to disobey. Piercing howls sounded in the air. The light was like rain as they leapt towards the guard camp outside Golden Crow City. Tenli. No move. The silver flood that everyone had predicted did not appear. This made everyone feel surprised. Maybe the power of the formation battle watchtowers have been used up? The middle-aged person was puzzled. Or the master of Golden Crow City has full confidence in this troop? The large male's face was both shocked and doubtful. Both possibilities were extremely likely, but they represented completely different meanings. He Xiang and the elders had been planning to face the rain of hard lightning, and hadn't expected that Golden Crow City did not shoot even one bolt after flying for a while. This caused them to be overjoyed. Morale exploded. The elders that had been planning to flee instantly felt assured. The outer hall Xiozhi behind them instantly became confident. What they were most afraid of was the hard lightning. Now that the biggest threat was gone, the other side was just some bumpkins dressed in heavy armor. What was there to be afraid of? What was there to be afraid of? Having seen the hope of survival, He Xian's desire for battle suddenly boiled. He shouted, "Kill, kill, kill." 1,000 outer hall Xiozhi shouted together, "Kill!" 7 li, 5 li, 3 li. The Xiozhi that were diving down began magnifying with astounding speed in Shu Long's vision. The MO skill ramped up to the limits. Shu Long opened his eyes. In his blood-red eyes, a dash of black energy flashed past like a black knife. He suddenly shouted, "Kill!" Chapter 292, Little Mo Kill. Shu Long ramped up his MO skill to its limit. Countless threads of black energy rapidly burrowed inside his body. His body quickly expanded, forcibly growing more than 1 chi in height. The weathered face became vicious and authoritative at this moment, the black armor and red eyes shocking people's hearts. It wasn't just him. The camp guards beside him all shouted, each of them growing taller. What weird scripture is this? The large male gaped with wide eyes. It is not clear. The face of the middle-aged person was serious. It's a bit like the e-ghost general arrival of the ghost formation sect and divine staff beating technique of Diana Xiao. There are many sects that have these kind of secret methods. They had been glorious during the 1,000-Year War, but not many have survived until now. Why hasn't more of it remained? This kind of secret method emphasizes killing, with less focus on cultivating the body and skills that create wealth, like forging or dan-making. It's natural that they would decline more quickly, the middle-aged person explained quickly, his eyes tightly locked onto the battlefield. It was another scene in Zhuamo's Ling eyes. Each camp guard was shrouded in black energy like numerous slender black serpents swimming around their body. An even higher-pitched howl suddenly sounded. The outer hall Xiozhi simultaneously sent out sword energies. Countless sword energies of various colors were like an enormous and dense school of multicolored fish howling as they leapt towards guard camp. The scene of 1,000 Xiozhi simultaneously releasing sword energies was very spectacular. Those who saw this scene all felt their hearts shake. After Shu Long's bellow, all of the guard camp sank into a strange silence. The thick killing intent also disappeared. At this time, Mo couldn't help but have a shocked expression. The black energy was tightly restrained inside the big formation. It was like a wild beast that was trapped in a cage. It furiously smashed against the cage. However, Shu Long and the others seemed familiar with these black energies and dismissed them, staying in their positions and allowing them to charge. It was only when the sword energy attacks had reached their heads that Shu Long had shouted, "Kill!" His kill was not loud, but it had a unique rhythm, deep and restrained. The big formation of the guard camp suddenly moved. The rampaging black energy inside the formation seemed to be unwilling to be used. They furiously rampaged inside the formation, but it was useless. The guard camp wearing black armor were expressionless as they marched with determined steps. As the camp guards quickly marched inside the formation, an invisible force formed inside the formation and carried the black energy to accelerate. An enormous whirlpool appeared above guard camp. The whirlpool darkened at a rate visible to the naked eye. The dense killing intent once again was revealed. The sword energies that were like rain in the sky seemed to be attracted by a strong force and were pulled towards the whirlpool. The faces of the outer hall Xiuzhe changed. They lost control of their sword energies. How was it possible? The great majority of them had never encountered such a strange situation before. The rain of sword energies entered the whirlpool made from black energy and disappeared without a trace. The entire battlefield was deathly silent. Everyone looked dazedly at the enormous black whirlpool that was silently churning above the guard camp. What is that?" the large male exclaimed in shock. The middle-aged person was so shocked he couldn't speak. How was it possible? How could such a powerful formation appear in Little Mountain Jie? The master of Golden Crow City truly had extraordinary origins. If it wasn't a sect more than 700 or 800 years old, they definitely could not possess such a terrifying battle formation. Which sect did this person come from? Why did he come to Little Mountain Jie? Did he have the same goals as they did? 100 thoughts ran through his head. The expression of the middle-aged person was also uncertain. Hong Junxian looked at the enormous whirlpool and his expression changed. His interest in watching flew away. He Xiang and the others were shocked. The slowly moving black whirlpool above guard camp was like an ancient beast that could consume everything. 1,000 sword energies had silently been swallowed inside. As expected, there was something strange. He Xiang gritted his teeth. "Let's go closer. They cannot stop our flying swords." The other Xiuzhe had hesitant expressions, but Hong Junxian and the others were behind them. If they retreated at this time, they would definitely be executed by the sword. Only by charging forward was there a possibility of survival. The elders exchanged looks. Without wasting words, they channeled their Ling power. Seeing the situation, the 1,000 people behind them could only follow behind. What reassured them was that they were in the sky, and that strange troop clearly was not suited to flight, so they could not do anything. If they were careful and didn't go near the black whirlpool, there shouldn't be a problem. He Xiang led the approach. His heart was slightly drumming. This troop was too strange. The black whirlpool looked extremely shocking. Their hearts beat rapidly. Unexpectedly, the whirlpool did not react to them as they neared. Maybe this whirlpool was only effective against things like sword energies? Everyone's courage grew a few fractions. They tried to go closer. As expected, there was no effect. Now their hearts were greatly reassured. The other people also saw, and for some unknown reason, the middle-aged person unconsciously released a breath. This vicious formation had given him pressure he had never felt before, pushing on his chest like a heavy rock. Such a powerful killing formation should not appear in Little Mountain Jie. Only Mo could see the profoundness involved. The black whirlpool had become even bigger after absorbing so many sword energies. Even more terrifying was that the enlarged black energy passed into the formation. The black energy inside the formation was more than 10 times as dense as it had been. Mo couldn't move his eyes away. For an unknown reason, he suddenly thought of the 9-turn sky soil disk's earth mist. The earth mist had been as heavy as a mountain, and this black energy was vicious and brutal. Inside the formation, Shu Long and the others were wrapped in thick black energy. The threads that had been like snakes before, but now it was like they were swimming in black water. The closer it was to them, the thicker the black energy. The sound of the black whirlpool was still shocking, but in Zwamo's eyes, it shows signs of fading. Was it? Zwamo's mind moved. At this time, Shu Long roared again, "Kill!" Everyone's heart jumped. Before they could respond, they heard the 1,000 camp guards roar, "Kill!" The killing intent that was let loose was like a fierce tiger that had left its cage, roaring and unstoppable. The organized troops suddenly spread out. Each platoon was like a ball of black cloud that spread into the surroundings. At the same time, dozens of black serpents flew out of the formation, twisting as their barrel-thick bodies leapt towards the outer hall Xiuzhe in the air. Hiss hiss hiss. The stream of serpents hissing made everyone's scalp prickle. The spectators only saw dozens of enormous black serpents that were dozens of Zhang Long suddenly leaping out of the black whirlpool, bearing their black fangs as they charged at the outer hall Xiuzhe in the air. The distance between the two sides was not far. The enormous black serpents were like arrows leaving the bow. With an unstoppable presence, it charged in front of the Xiuzhe. A blurry black shadow suddenly shot before him. He Xiang's head rang and then blanked. He was not the only one. None of the elders managed to react. A fishy wind blew past. The pain they imagined did not come. He Xiang shook and suddenly woke up. He found that he was surrounded in a patch of black. A strange terror filled his heart. He swallowed difficulty. Where was this? Cold and murderous without a hint of life, he seemed to be located in a void. Loneliness and terror continued to charge at his heart's defenses like waves. Calm? He had to remain calm. This definitely was an illusion. He Xiang repeatedly told himself and tried to calm down. A voice full of killing intent suddenly passed into the void. Kill! He suddenly felt an enormous pain from his back. When he lowered his head, he found to his terror a hand shrouded in black energy had emerged halfway out of his chest. But his mind dropped into an endless darkness. Su Long felt the temperature inside his body was astoundingly high. He seemed to be burning to ashes. He could only grit his teeth and bear it. It was common to encounter this kind of situation when they cultivated Hardship Guard. Just now, he had activated the MO skill to kill He Xiang in one blow. However, he did not have any joy at this moment. There was only a furious desire for battle in his heart. He once again raised his palm. His entire palm was wrapped in thick black energy. His eyes became even more red. A heart-boring pain passed from his right arm, but his arm did not shake at all. Any kind of power could not come out of thin air. To gain power, one had to pay. With a safe scripture, what was paid was time. For a quick scripture, even though it saved time, it required payment of other things. Kill! A deep roar squeezed out of his chest. He suddenly flipped his palm, his fingers turning to claws as he grabbed towards a Xiuzhe in the air. A black palm left his hand, and suddenly imprinted on one Xiuzhe's chest and passing through as though the dazzling Ling shield seemed to not exist. This black palm easily passed through. This Xiuzhe's body shook, and then his vitality instantly disappeared as he dropped down. What the outsiders saw was a very strange scene. When the black serpents were just going to collide with the Xiuzhe troop, they suddenly turned to a ball of black energy and covered all of the Xiuzhe. The Xiuzhe covered in the black energy seemed to freeze like puppets in the air. Balls of black energy instantly flew out of the guard camp below them and hit the frozen outer hall Xiuzhe. The Xiuzhe in the sky dropped, like dumplings into a pot. When some Xiuzhe were still dropping from the air, their corpses were already gray and without life. Pia pia pia. Outer hall Xiuzhe continued to drop. In a few short breaths, nothing was left in the sky. No Xiuzhe had escaped. The outer hall troops had all been defeated again, including all of their elders. The elders tried to struggle, but inside the black energy, they were like headless flies. They flew randomly, but still could not escape. In the end, they were hit with dozens of black energy balls. The entire battle was so short it was unimaginable, so clean and crisp it was terrifying. 1,000 people versus 1,000 people. One side was completely obliterated in the blink of an eye, and the other side had no fatalities at all. Everyone did not feel shock anymore, but instead felt terror. Deep terror. This group of people dressed in black armor was as terrifying as Yao Ma. No, even if it were Yao Ma, they definitely could not kill 1,000 Xiuzhe so easily. Hong Junxian's face was bloodless and as white as paper. He unconsciously opened his mouth but did not produce any sound. At his side, the calves of the other Clear Sky sect disciples uncontrollably trembled. Even the large male and the middle-aged person had fearful expressions. Who were they? What was that black energy? What was that battle formation? Chapter 293, Great Unexpected Wealth. Shu Long bit down hard. The black energy was burning against his body like fire. He knew what the black energy was. It was killing essence. The Crow Fiend Mo killing formation could condense killing essence to wound the enemy, but the killing essence was like a double-edged blade. To wound the enemy, it had to first wound them. Channeling Hardship Guard to his limit, the black energy was slowly being absorbed. His body uncontrollably trembled all over. Pain and struggle was the best nutrients or this Mo skill. Different than what others saw, using little Mo kill was barely achievable for the present guard camp. In the usual practice, the success rate of little Mo kill was not high. But today, no platoon had failed in activating their little Mo kill. But Shu Long felt threads of black energy burrow into his body like worms and burning every part of his skin. He didn't dare to move. He was afraid that if he made the slightest movement, he would suddenly lose control. He was not the only one. All the other camp guards were nailed to the ground like wooden posts. They were covered all over in black energy. They gritted his teeth and bore it, furiously channeling their Mo skill. Return to the city immediately. Inside the necklace, Pu Yao's voice was not shouting like he was previously, but with a rare kind of solemnity. Shu Long could not speak. He bit down harder, the black energy on his body increasingly dense. The black energy seemed to show signs of turning to flame. He couldn't even move his feet to walk. The black energy increasingly grew heavier in all of guard camp. Zuo also saw the wrongness. Theoretically, the black energy should have dissipated by now, but the black energy inside the large formation was becoming increasingly heavy. If this continued, guard camp would be consumed by these brutal and sharp killing essences. Black water. Quick! Pu Yao's voice suddenly sounded inside Zuomo's head. Zuo first stilled, and then his expression instantly changed. He flew outside the city and sprinkled down black water. At this time, he couldn't care about how valuable black water was. He was afraid that the amount wasn't enough, and just rained down all the black water he possessed on guard camp. Each drop of black water was heavy as lead. With cracking sounds, some landed on the ground and smashed out a small hole, dust spraying out. But when it hit the bodies of the camp guards, it was like landing in sand, instantly entering their body and disappearing without a trace. Previously, the Moon Eye black water beast Zuo and the others had killed was 3,000 caddies heavy. Zuo had taken as much as 1,500 caddies of black water. All of that 1,500 caddies of black water was raining down on the bodies of the guard camp. Black water was a frequently used third-grade material, but that did not mean that it was so cheap. The Crow Fiend Mo killing formation caused everyone to feel terror, but when the spectators saw Zuo continuously sprinkle down 1,500 caddies of black water, they almost went insane and felt great pain. Their eyes were so jealous they were entirely red. More than 1,000 caddies of black water. Was there anyone that was so wasteful? Looking at the black energy decreasing, the expressions of pain on Shu Long and the others' faces decreased greatly. Zuo felt slightly reassured. He suddenly recalled that he had 4 semi-spheres of Moon Eye. He hurriedly asked Pu Yao, "Are Moon Eyes useful?" Pu Yao was slightly surprised. "Moon Eyes are very expensive." "So it means they are effective?" asked Zuo. "Oh, it's effective." Just as Pu Yao's words landed, Zuo took out the 4 semi-spheres of Moon Eye. Moon Eye. The spectators did not lack for those that recognized it, who then exclaimed, "Blackwater! Moon. He must have killed a moon-eye blackwater beast. Very strong. That thing is very expensive. What does he want to do?" Zwermo put the moon eyes into the center of his palms and then scrubbed hard. Instantly, the moon eyes turned to a pile of white powder. All the exclamations suddenly stopped. They looked with abject shock at Zwermo's hands. Zwermo gently channeled Ling power into his palms. The moon eye power instantly turned to a ball of white smoke and covered guard camp. This master of Golden Crow City definitely is of uncommon origin. The middle-aged person's expression was admiring. "I don't know which sect he is a disciple of. This person is very generous and has high aims. Darren may want to get acquainted with him." The large male also had admiration. To say of nothing else, it wasn't so easy to be so generous to one's subordinates. He was confident in the judgment of the middle-aged person. Without a doubt, the master of Golden Crow City definitely was the heir to an ancient and hidden sect. Such a vicious formation, such powerful subordinates, these were things only disciples of those large sects would have. What made him so certain was the 1,500 caddies of Blackwater and the 4 semispheres of Moon Eye that Zwermo had taken out. He was too familiar with these motions. Just this mannerism wasn't something a small sect could afford to give. Thinking about himself and his group of people throwing down the 1,000 jing to get a beauty to smile, it was embarrassing compared to this person today. So embarrassing. The large male made the decision that he would definitely request a meeting with the Lord of Golden Crow City when this battle finished. Shu Long and the others knew the value of Blackwater and Moon Eye. Mist rose in their eyes. The black energy almost lost control. They had always been ordered about, beaten, and sworn at. No one had ever spent so much on them. Never before. The voice of the Darren inside the necklace sounded again. "Gather your minds, return to the city immediately, move slowly." Shu Long suppressed the excitement inside. He didn't say anything, reaching out with a hand to make a motion towards the others. They slowly moved towards Golden Crow City. The city gates of Golden Crow City were wide open. Compared to the crispness and nimbleness when they jumped down from the walls of the city, they were as slow as turtles at this time and had no presence. But no one dared to underestimate them. When their eyes landed on guard camp, they would unconsciously hold a hint of terror. It was this troop that looked as slow as puppets. It was these bumpkins mocked for wearing clumsy and heavy black armor that had just destroyed a troop of 1,000 Shioja. When guard camp entered the city, they went directly back to their camp to process the killing essence, Blackwater, and Moon Eyes. Zwermo wasn't in the mood to face the others, and had the formation battle watchtowers keep up their guard. He ran to the residence of guard camp and saw the armor-wearing Shio slaves standing like wooden posts shrouded in black energy. He worriedly asked Pu Yao, "What happened today? Is there a problem?" "Right, what formation did they use?" "Crow Fiend Mo Killing Formation, a type of slightly obscure formation," Pu Yao said. "It is the most appropriate to use with Hardship Guard. This battle formation was something it got after killing a Mo general." Zwermo was slightly puzzled. "That's steel," Pu Yao said irritably. "Oh." Zwermo didn't understand but noted it down. It seemed the gravestone was as extraordinary as he had expected to be able to kill a Mo general. He continued to ask, "What happened today?" "The first skill of Crow Fiend Mo Killing Formation is called Little Mo Kill. That's what you saw today," Pu Yao said. "Even though it doesn't have much technique, the time they have spent cultivating is too short and it was too hard for them to use." "Then what are they doing now?" Pu Yao was slightly discontent. Originally, he had been planning to show off in front of Zwermo, but hadn't expected that the other had to come and rescued him. This made him feel as uncomfortable as though he had swallowed a fly. Seeing Zwermo stare at him, he could only twist his mouth and say, "They have received good fortune due to this calamity. The killing essence has corroded their body. To other people it is fatal, but for them, it is a good chance to make a breakthrough. Since you have Blackwater and used the Moon Eyes, if they still can't break through, they are pigs." Zwermo's heart was instantly reassured. He smirked. "I don't dare to say if they are pigs. I say, old Pooh, you have to be more reliable in the future. You said you wanted to manage guard camp alone. Okay, I immediate consented. But look, after this long, you only practiced a dumb formation and a self-mutilation skill. Please, you are a Sky Yao, you need to take out something acceptable. A person can't be so miserly, no, a Sky Yao can't be so miserly. You even needed G to run over for a rescue. Do you think Blackwater and Moon Eyes doesn't cost Jingshi? Honored Sky Yao, it is very expensive. Finishing, he didn't look at Pu Yao's white and green face, turned, and left the sea of consciousness. Once he came out of the sea of consciousness, Zhuo couldn't stop himself from roaring with laughter. When he thought of Pu Yao's green and white ugly expression, he felt his body was unspeakably comfortable. After 2,500 people had fallen outside Golden Crow City, Hong Junxian, who saw it all with his own eyes, had to tuck up his tail no matter how arrogant he was. He definitely could not accept leaving pitifully like this, but he didn't dare to mount another frontal attack. He Xiang and the others had all been killed in this battle. He had paled just from watching. Where could he get the bravery? Out of helplessness, he could only set down camp and slowly brainstorm. The night came quickly. Golden Crow City that usually was filled with light was pitch black today. But the camp of the outer hall was lit up like it was day. They were afraid of a sneak attack from Golden Crow City. The Xiozha that were watching from afar were waiting for the day to arrive. It seemed like nothing would happen tonight. Time quickly flowed until midnight. Suddenly, the city gate of Golden Crow City was pushed open a sliver. The pagoda sneakily peeked out with half of its body, saw that no one was there, before walking out without any worry. Behind it, a row of copper puppets tiptoed as they streamed out. Each Cooper puppet had a cloth bag on its back. Lil Pagoda slowly flew at the front, occasionally looking around. The copper puppets leapt towards the corpses below with a nimbleness and speed completely opposite its clumsy bodies. Their movements were uncoordinated as they tore down the talismans and ling armor from the bodies of the corpses and then put them into the cloth bag on their backs. At the beginning, their movements were extremely raw, but then they slowly became smooth. Very quickly, the cloth bag on a puppet's back was full. At this time, a gray shadow flashed past its back and flew away with the bag. The copper puppet slowly took out a second cloth bag and continued to work. On the morning of the next day, when everyone looked at Golden Crow City, they were stunned. The corpses that had been scattered on the mountain were now completely bare. Looking at the bare corpses on the mountain, everyone completely lost their abilities to speak. When Hong Junxian saw this scene, he didn't know what to say. Chapter 294, The Return of Lil, missed the spoils from 2,500 people was astounding. Other than large amounts of normal third-grade talismans, there were also 12 fourth-grade talismans. The elders had been very rich. Of course, that cloud formation silk naturally wouldn't have been lost. The number of materials and Jingshi were also very astounding. The spoils this time filled all of the date seed ship. This was an astonishing amount of wealth. So when Zhuo saw the inventory list Bao Yi gave him, he was turned dumb by such enormous wealth. However, upon further thought, he felt it was normal. The outer hall Xiozha were wealthier than the average Xiozha to start with, and since it was 2,500 people at once, the amount could be imagined. In the next few days, Zhuo was immersed in great happiness. Hong Junxian did not dare to act rashly. He had personally saw the guard camp destroy 1,000 people with the flick of a finger. He was especially wary of the deathly black energy that could ignore Ling shields. He sank into a situation where he could not retreat. What good ideas do you have? He Junxian's eyes were bloodshot and his voice hoarse. The other Shidi looked at each other. After a while, a Shidi said, "There's so many Xiozha behind Golden Crow City. Why doesn't Shixiang recruit them? I saw that the state of those heavy armor Xiozha wasn't so well after the battle. Golden Crow City may not be as strong as we imagine. If we can recruit more people, our chances of victory would increase." Hong Junxian shook his head. If we win and order them to submit to us, none of them would disobey. But now that victory is undecided, They will only watch. They would only obey if Master came. Everyone sank into silence again. They had been hoping to get some achievements this time. Looking at it now, there was no hope left. It was a disappointment that they would not get any achievements, but it was much better than losing their life. The strength of Golden Crow City was beyond their imagination. Unless Master personally came, they didn't feel that any faction in Little Mountain Jie would be able to conquer this little city. Hong Junxian knew what the shitty were all thinking, but he didn't have a solution at this time. It was a great misstep to have come this time. The authority that he had managed to accumulate would probably be lost this time. But he was a decisive person. He understood the only solution now was to ask for aid from Master. Before Master came, if he could preserve the power of the present outer hall, even if he did not earn any great accomplishments, he would be noted for his work. After thinking it through, he instantly made his response. Let's stay on the defensive. I'll trouble one shitty to go make a trip and send a letter to Master for me. Several shitty instantly jumped out. They all wanted to leave this nightmarish place faster. Seventh shitty happily put away the jade scroll that Hong Junxian handed over and made his farewells. He quickly flew into the air and left on his sword. The other shitty were all discontent, but they didn't have any way around it. Seventh shitty flew the fastest among them all. Just as everyone was grumbling, a sword light flew at astounding speed towards the camp. Why has seventh shitty come back? One of the people remarked in puzzlement. They saw seventh shitty land in the camp with a terrified expression. The moment he stepped on the ground, he stumbled, his face full of panic. Second Shixiang. Second Shixiang. Not good. People are coming over. Boom. The camp instantly became a mess. All of the Clear Sky Sect disciples had expressions of anger. Had Clear Sky Sect really become a softie for anyone to squeeze? Any random person could run and shit over their heads? Hong Junxian, who had lost at Golden Crow City, instantly became angry. They really dare to rebel against the heavens. After this Golden Crow City, they all think that they are Golden Crow City. The Clear Sky Sect disciples hurriedly agreed. With a rumble, everyone rose into the sky. After resting from battle for a few days, the Xiozha in the surroundings had become slightly bored. Seeing the outer hall fly into the sky once again, they instantly became alert. Were they going to continue to attack Golden Crow City? Many people secretly shook their heads. Many of them had been thinking, out of boredom, these days on how to attack Golden Crow City, but they found that this little Golden Crow City wasn't something they could swallow. Only 2 of Golden Crow City's cards had been revealed, and they destroyed 2,500 people from the outer hall. Who knew how many more tricks did they have up their sleeves? To say of nothing else, just the city walls that exuded a faint solar aura was already extraordinary. These people had all went inside Golden Crow City to buy black processing meditation mats. The dense and dizzying formations that could be seen everywhere in Golden Crow City made many Xiozha that thought they were skilled in formations feel embarrassed. If there wasn't a Jin Dan expert, such a strong city could only be taken using lives. However, the direction the outer hall was facing seemed to be opposite to Golden Crow City. Everyone watched in astonishment. What was the outer hall doing? They saw a 700 or so troop appear in their view and understood. The news that the cadet halls of the outer hall had been attacked had long spread throughout Little Mountain Jie. Many people speculated this unusually mysterious and strong troop was very likely to be a force from Golden Crow City. The 6 divisions of Vermilion Bird Camp silently floated in the air as they faced the outer hall. Such an elite force. A bright light suddenly exploded in the eyes of the middle-aged person who couldn't help but exclaim. How so? Their numbers seem too few, said the large male as he looked with shock at the middle-aged person. It was extremely rare to hear this person praise others usually. He hadn't expected that Golden Crow City, and now this troop, would receive such high praise in the last few days. The only weakness is that there is not enough people. The middle-aged person said, Darren, look closely at this troop. The shape of this troop is not as strictly organized as the armor-wearing Xiozha from 2 days ago, but in reality, it only appears loose on the outside, but is tight on the inside. This is a quality that would only appear on troops that are experienced at battle. Facing so many enemies, they are not the least bit panicked or rushed. This means that they are confident. If this kind of troop is in our sect, what could it rank? The large male asked in curiosity. It should enter the top 10, the middle-aged person said gravely. The large male suddenly changed expression. He finally started to look seriously at this troop that was only 700 to 800 people. The top 10 troops in his sect were all famous in their jia. His dream was to possess a troop that could enter the top 10, but up until now he was very far from his goal. People who had keen eyes were not few. The biggest feeling that Vermilion Bird Camp gave everyone was a pressure that blew straight at them. They just stood there, yet an invisible pressure unconsciously spread out. Gong Sun Cha glanced at the naked corpses that covered the mountain, a rock inside his heart landing. Mirth floated at the corner of his mouth. Only Shixiang could create such a spectacular scene. To not leave even one pair of pants behind, that was the classic style of Shixiang. Narrowing his eyes to look at the other side, Gong Sun Cha smiled again. With his present eyes, he could see with a glance that the outer hall had been greatly impacted, their morale at a low. It seemed that Shixiang had been a bit heavy-handed. When the other people saw the bare corpses under their feet, all of their expressions were extremely strange. Zuarimo received a report that Gong Sun Shidi and the others had come back. He hurriedly climbed onto the lucky cloud, and took the female Xiao as he slowly floated into the sky above Golden Crow City. Seeing that the expressions of Vermilion Bird Camp were slightly tired, but the morale was high, and there were no fatalities, a rock landed in his chest. He decided to exchange greetings with Shidi, but when the words reached his mouth, they instantly changed flavor. Shidi! Don't let go of any of them! Zuarimo shouted at the top of his lungs. His voice echoed in the mountain valleys. The spectators realized at this time that this troop of 700 people was, as expected, the elite of Golden Crow City. The middle-aged person and the large male's hypothesis that Zuarimo came from a hidden sect was reinforced by this call of Shidi. A thought floated on everyone's minds. It seemed that the master of Golden Crow City was full of confidence towards this elite force. He actually didn't want any of the enemy to escape. The grievance between Golden Crow City and Clear Sky Sect seemed to grow. Golden Crow City wanted to massacre the outer hall. As expected, this wasn't an ordinary person. Just this mannerism was extraordinary. Zuarimo then gravely added a sentence, "They are all fat sheep. You can't let any of them go." Everyone collectively turned to stone. The praise on the face of the middle-aged person suddenly froze. Hong Jun Xian felt he would die from embarrassment. When were Clear Sky Sect disciples that led 5,000 people called fat sheep by others, and also not let any of them go? Humiliation. This was true humiliation. The faces of the Clear Sky Sect disciples flushed red. They stared hatefully at the procession of Gong Sun Cha. They didn't dare to attack Golden Crow City. However, a troop that wasn't even 800 strong dared to be so arrogant in front of them and said that they would all be defeated. Even if they went back to the sect now, they could never raise their heads in front of the other disciples. "You don't need me to say anything." Hong Jun Xian said darkly, "When has us Clear Sky Sect disciples been humiliated so?" "Don't worry, Shixiang." A Shidi's face was filled with killing intent. "Leave none of them standing. We need to let them taste what it is like to leave none of them standing. Thus, at that time, we will also strip their corpses." Another Shidi viciously said. Hong Jun Xian said gravely, "I won't say too much. If anyone dares to retreat and fear battle today, I will personally execute them. I believe that even if Master was here, he wouldn't blame me." Yes, everyone's hearts shook as they responded together. Rong Wei along with the 200 compound guards flew as fast as they could. That troop had been too fast. They had used all their power, and just managed to not lose track of the troop. The other clearly had an emergency and ignored their group, who followed behind. After flying for several days and nights, she was exhausted. However, she found it was unimaginably queer that the troop did not show any signs of exhaustion. How was it possible? Were they metal people? When she saw the mysterious and strong troop up ahead, she released a breath. She hadn't lost them. After following for so many days, she was finally slightly familiar with this troop. This was a true elite force. Even if they were in a crowd, she could easily find them. However, she immediately stilled. Because facing against this troop was a vast troop of approximately 5,000 people. Were they going to challenge an enemy who had numbers about 6 times their own? How is this possible? Were they crazy? After flying continuously for so many days, how could they still have the energy? Gong Sun Cha did not notice this gaze that was filled with disbelief behind him. He gave a shy and bashful smile. The people around him shook simultaneously. These few days, Lil Miss Face had remained cold. Now he was showing his trademark smile. They felt their hair stand up on end. Do you all understand what boss means? Understood, everyone instinctively replied. Then let's begin. In the depths of Gong Sun Cha's shy and smiling pupils, a cold blade-like light suddenly ignited. Chapter 295, Battle General. Vermilion Bird Camp did not immediately act. They were like patient huntsmen waiting for their prey to reveal a fatal weakness. Continuous combat had caused them to mature quickly. Not just Gong Sun Cha, it was also true of everyone else. In the present, they didn't need Gong Sun Cha to send down orders. Every person knew what they should do. Gong Sun Cha's eyes were sparkling, his face holding the bashful smile that was unique to him. He clearly had been induced to elation by Shi Xiang's suggestion. Seeing the smile on Lil Miss Face, everyone understood that Lil Miss was getting serious. They hurriedly became 120% alert and gathered their mind. If they couldn't complete it well, then what was waiting for them would be inhumane. They collectively shook. Everyone wiped their eyes clean and revealed a light that made others feel trepidation. The first to act was the outer hall. The 5,000-strong army suddenly divided into 5 troops. 2 of the troops charged straight forward, and another 2 circled around to the flanks. They want to surround us? Ma Fan was stunned. Ha! Xie Shan smiled, filled with killing intent. Everyone could see that the outer hall wanted to swallow this elite force of Golden Crow City in one go. This troop from Golden Crow City is overconfident. The large male shook his head. At least this time, the outer hall didn't do anything stupid. They finally understand that their greatest advantage is their numbers. If they can bog down this troop, they can slowly grind them dead. The middle-aged person was silent. He didn't speak, but he agreed with the large male inside. Naturally, they were not the only ones who could see this. Rong Wei also saw this. She looked with puzzlement at this troop that was about to be surrounded. After following for so many days, she had her own opinion about this mysterious troop. This was a true elite troop. They were skilled in tactics, had outstanding individual manpower, was well organized, persistent, and had endurance in combat. How could such a troop make such a common and low-level mistake? They were elite, but the difference in numbers was truly too great. In the present situation, their best tactic was to use their own actions to continuously manipulate the enemy and find chances to continuously gnaw on them. But Vermilion Bird Camp seemed to be unaffected about being surrounded. She felt pity inside. Such an elite troop would die here. She had originally wanted to have a partnership with the other. Looking at it now, she had to find another way. Just as the others were feeling pity, Vermilion Bird Camp finally moved. Without any finesse, they charged directly at the 2 troops that were flying at them. Everyone was filled with bewilderment. The 2 troops that were directly in front of them added together was nearly 2,000 people. It was the direction that had the greatest number of people and should have been the least likely choice to make a breakthrough. But Vermilion Bird Camp chose to directly break through. Acceleration. Acceleration without any hesitation. In the sky, tearing howls rose. Ma Fan and Xie Shan lead the first charge. They instantly attracted everyone's gaze. Ma Fan's illusory movement method was at its highest. The howling in his ears gradually faded as they were left behind him due to his fast speed. In the sky, a string of afterimages blossomed, and then were dissipated by the members that followed tightly behind him. He didn't need to look to know that Xieshan was definitely near him. They had partnered up multiple times and were very in sync with each other. His speed was so fast he could not even see the faces of the enemy clearly. He bent his head down, and he focused while the flying sword appeared in his hand. The enemy neared at a shocking speed. The battle intent that was simmering inside his body reached a peak in an instant, the Ling power already prepared erupting out through the flying sword. Shadowless sword of destruction. The intimidating sword essence gathered at the tip of each sword energy. With long afterimages trailing behind, the sword energies flickered bright and dim. The three Xiozha targeted by the sword essence changed expression and fled to the two sides in panic. Xieshan had the highest cultivation, but in terms of talent in the sword and comprehension of sword essence, Ma Fan was the #1 in Vermilion Bird Camp. Each sword essence would create 3 to 5 afterimages that made it hard to determine which was real and which was not. The sky full of sword energies made a person feel unable to dodge. The dot of sword essence at the tip of each sword energy was extremely pure and unable to be destroyed. When every outer hall Xiozha faced it, it felt as though the sword energy was pointed directly at their brow. Their hearts were stunned. The outer hall Xiozha retreated to the two sides like a retreating tide everywhere Ma Fan passed. The Ling power of Xieshan's body was channeled to the extreme. The pressure exuded by a terrifying cultivation of over 180 jing was enough to drive a person insane. The outer hall Xiozha suddenly thought of that terrifying Ningmai third stratum Xiozha that had almost destroyed Nanxing village on his own. The spectators rumbled and flew into the sky to look with shock at the battlefield. Each person could clearly feel the waves released by Xieshan. A Ningmai third stratum Xiozha with a cultivation surpassing 180 jing was the peak existence in Ningmai. However, the middle-aged person next to the large male favored Ma Fan more. It is rare for someone so young to possess such a pure sword essence. In the future, he would easily become an expert. If there is a chance, it is good to recruit him. The large male disagreed inside. In the sect, there were many Shidi who possessed such power. He lacked interest in Ma Fan. The middle-aged person knew that the large male was thinking, and sighed inside. In his view, the fact that Ma Fan could cultivate such a pure sword essence in such an environment was enough to prove his outstanding talent. The disciples from the sect were good in their strength, but how much Lingdan and wondrous medicines had been used to build that up? However, he did not persuade further. Another who had the same view as the middle-aged person was Rong Wei. However, she knew the power of Vermilion Bird Camp and did not have any intentions of recruiting the other. However, the shock she had increased. This troop was filled with all sorts of talents, and was even more powerful than she had imagined. She suddenly glanced at the male that was floating on the lucky cloud above Golden Crow City. Just now, she had heard him shout, "Shidi." Was he the one in charge? When her gaze landed on the mask-wearing female Xiao next to the male, she had a strong feeling that the power of this female Xiao wasn't simple, though she could not see it. This group of people were not simple. The expressions of the Clear Sky sect disciples were all ugly. The strong combat abilities shown by Ma Fan and Xieshan caused the outer hall Xiozha to retreat. No one dared to block them for an instant. Quickly, 4 Clear Sky sect disciples charged at the two people at the same time. Xieshan snickered, the flying sword in his hand rising as he suddenly accelerated. His entire figure turned into a smear of multicolored light as he charged towards the 4. In sync, Ma Fan's figure swerved and left the 4 people behind but still charging forward. Behind him, Nian Lu instantly took his place. Beside Nian Lu, Lei Peng had a snarling smile as he charged at the 4 Clear Sky sect disciples that Xieshan was covering. Beside Lei Peng, the other expects all moved forward, brimming with murderous intent. They didn't give anyone the chance to fight on their own. Taking advantage of Xieshan trapping the disciples, the saber and sword energies of Lei Peng and the others silently flashed by. A line of blood simultaneously appeared on the throats of the 4 people. Their eyes were wide, terror frozen on their faces as if they wanted to say something. No one paid attention to them. None of the Xiozha from the Sky Peak platoon looked at the 4 Clear Sky sect disciples and raced past them. Having gotten rid of what was behind him, Ma Fan was alone as the head of the arrow. His wrist shook and the sword energies that had been prepared long ago, pew pew pew, were like a sword energy rain. Everyone suddenly felt their vision light up. The sword energies carried a sky-covering presence as the keen sword essence covered everything. Everyone felt their scalp prickle, and their expressions changed. Their minds stolen away, they instinctively dodged. Sky Peak platoon was like a burning hot blade slicing through butter. Without any resistance, it easily divided the troops in two. What was following tightly after was the 6 divisions of Vermilion Bird Camp. Different from the unparalleled keenness of Sky Peak platoon, what the 6 divisions displayed was power. If Sky Peak platoon was a sharp knife, then the 6 divisions were 6 heavy hammers, 30,000 caddies heavy, and unable to be stopped. In front of the 6 divisions, the 2,000 people were like papier-mâché and easily penetrated. When they passed, they left behind a straight line of bloody rain. In the blink of an eye, the situation of the battlefield instantly reversed. Everyone gaped. Having broken through and messed up the ranks of the 2,000 people at the front, the advantages of the two sides instantly reversed. At this time, Vermilion Bird Camp held the advantage. Countless people gaped. They looked dazedly as Vermilion Bird Camp broke through the ranks of 2,000 people in an instant. That was 2,000 people. That number was 3 times that of Vermilion Bird Camp. The Xiozha that lost organization were like headless mosquitoes moving in random directions. It was useless no matter how Hong Junxian shouted and raged. The faces of the large male, the middle-aged person, and Rong Wei changed at the same time. Their eyes were keener and more acute. The collision between the two sides had just been a short instant, but this short instant had given them too much of a shock and too much content that they needed to digest. More than 10 Xiozha that comprehend sword essence. If it was just based on numbers, the large male shouldn't be so shocked. There were many disciples inside the sect that comprehend sword essence. But those were disciples. When these disciples entered the battalions, they were the backbone. To use experts that comprehended sword essence to specially construct a little troop for charging? He had never heard of such a thing, much less seen it. It was too luxurious. The large male felt he was almost going insane. He started to doubt. Was his sect really a large sect? Why did he feel he was poor? Rong Wei looked at the chaotic battlefield in the air. She had made a high estimate previously about the combat abilities of this troop of 700 or so people, but after seeing them fight with her own eyes today, she found that she had greatly underestimated them. Battle General. This was definitely a troop that possessed a battle general, and a battle general that was not of a low rank. The brutal and sharp charge was like a blade that accurately dismembered the opponent. The cooperation and support between each troop, including their advancing paths and the timing of attack, was flawless. Rong Wei felt cold sweat stream down. The Marquis had done his best to teach her. She had also learned how to be a battle general. Otherwise, the Marquis would not have sent her on this mission. As early as when she was 15, she had received the Green Bronze Battle General Medal from the licensing office. Her talent had been astounding. Comparing herself to that young person, she secretly rejoiced that she hadn't hung that Bronze Battle General Medal on her waist. She looked from a distance at the young person that was tightly guarded in the middle, and felt it was hard to comprehend. From childhood, what she had heard the most of were praises of how talented she was. Today, she had personally seen a young person who wasn't much older than her, but was much more skilled than she was. Gong Sun Cha did not detect that someone was looking at him. His eyes were like stars in the night spreading a glowing light. Constantly paying attention to the changes on the battlefield, he suddenly spoke. Prepare to begin. If the female Xiao suddenly talked, he would definitely be scared. The Vermilion Bird Camp's simultaneous shouts of "surrender to not die" could be heard from far away. The hopeless outer hall Xiozha all surrendered so easily that even Zuemo was shocked. The direction of the entire battle was unexpected to everyone. Even Zwe Mo and Gong Sun Cha almost couldn't believe that more than 4,000 people could give up resisting so easily and collectively surrender. The other people were stunned. The middle-aged person was the first to respond. He shook his head and sighed. What the outer hall does is not righteous in the end. A troop constructed in this manner had nothing to speak in terms of discipline. There's no problem usually, but if they encounter danger, they cannot withstand a single blow. The large male objected, if it is the elite from our sect, it is unknown who will win. The middle-aged person smiled while he spoke. The elite from the sect can compare to this troop, but what about the battle general? The large male stilled. 1,000 soldiers were easy to obtain, but one general was hard to request. It was hard to raise a battle general. There were rarely those that could come out of the wild. Only large sects would be able to educate some. Of all the licensing offices, the Battle General Licensing Office was always the least populous. But after the incident at Bloody Sky Metropolis Jia, the Battle General classes were as common as rain. Of course, those were just to con people of Jingshi. But from the side, it was possible to see the desire of all sects regarding battle generals. Presently, Battle General had become the most popular and employable profession. The sect had 3 or 5 battle generals, but they only had bronze medals. The battle general of this troop definitely was not just a bronze-ranked general. The level above bronze medal was the silver medal. Each silver battle general was a rarely found talent. The price to recruit a silver battle general was even higher than a Jin Dan sword shio. Was he a silver battle general? The large male stared at Gong Sun Cha's bashful and delicate face. He almost couldn't believe it. Rong Wei was just as shocked as he was. However, Rong Wei wasn't just postulating, she was sure of it. She herself was a bronze battle general and had a more accurate judgment of Gong Sun Cha's skill. This young person with a shy and bashful smile like that of the neighbor's little boy definitely was a silver-ranked battle general. Clear Sky Sect really kicked a metal board this time. Rong Wei stared at the battlefield without a word. Behind her were the shocked faces of the compound guards. Her gaze suddenly landed on the black young person sitting on the lucky cloud. That was the master of Golden Crow City. She imperceptibly furrowed her brows. The master of Golden Crow City seemed to be admiring the bare feet of the female. She hadn't expected him to be a lusty person. She felt pity inside. The future of such a young silver battle general was unlimited, but he was under the command of such a lusty person. She felt great regret. Zuoremo stared at the perfect bare feet of the female Shio, saying to himself, "Tell me, will Clear Sky Forefather come this time?" After the previous experience with the 9-turn sky soil disc, Zuomo's relationship with the female Shio had unconsciously become closer. Even he didn't seem to realize it. The bare feet of the female Shio would unconsciously attract his attention. At the beginning he had been slightly embarrassed, but afterwards he found that the female Shio did not care at all, so he did it openly. This was in pursuit of beautiful things. Zuomo's reason was righteous. He should probably come soon. Zuoremo didn't move aside his eyes as he spoke to himself. Clear Sky Old Forefather. The female Shio was silent. Gathering the spoils was a very familiar practice for Vermilion Bird Camp. Bao Yi also hurried out of Golden Crow City to help. It didn't even take 2 hours for all of the captives to be completely stripped clean. The spectating Xiozha all watched with burning eyes. They wanted to go and get some benefits as well. However, after just seeing the strong combat capabilities of Vermilion Bird Camp, no one dared to act. When Hongjun Xian and the other Clear Sky Sect disciples were taken to Zuo, each of them only had their pants left. "If you dare to even harm one of our hares, the old forefather won't have mercy on you," a Clear Sky Sect disciple said severely. Crazy, Zuoremo rolled his eyes. Look at the situation. Saying these words, did he not want to live? Hongjun Xian suddenly shouted at this disciple, "Shut up!" He dismissed the disciple and turned to Zuoremo to say, "We are all core disciples of Clear Sky Sect. If Sir can give us a way to survive, we are willing to pay an appropriate price." Zuomo's eyes lit up. Nothing was more attractive to him than Jingshi, but his mouth went, Oh, but you do not have anything right now. Please give me a paper crane. This one believes the price will definitely satisfy, sir. Hong Junxian recovered his previous calm. Zuemo thought, and then shook his head. Why? Hong Junxian instantly started to panic. If the other did not agree, then his little life was in danger. He thought the other was unsatisfied. 200 pieces of 4th-grade Jingshi? This price? The shitty in the surroundings all inhaled sharply as they looked in disbelief at Second Shixiang. None of them had expected Second Shixiang to be so wealthy. Where had Second Shixong gotten this much Jingshi from? Zuemo still shook his head. And half of the profits from the outer hall. Hong Junxian said painfully, Sir should also know how much the outer hall can earn in a year. If Sir allows us to survive, the outer hall is still under our control. Second Shixiang, you're crazy? A Clear Sky sect disciple couldn't resist saying. Shut up. Hong Junxian's face was black, tendons bulging. Do you want to die here? The other people instantly stopped talking. Hong Junxian was like a gambling addict that had lost everything. He looked at Zwem. How about it? Zuemo still shook his head. What do you want? Hong Junxian was almost going insane. To kill Clear Sky Old Forefather, Zuemo said calmly. All the Clear Sky sect disciples first stilled and then laughed as though they had heard an impossible joke. Hong Junxian almost couldn't breathe from laughing so hard. After a while, he stopped and said with a mocking smile, Don't joke. You want to kill Old Forefather? Just you guys? I feel that you should consider my previous suggestion. Zuemo said with interest, Oh, what? Our power isn't enough? It's not just that it isn't enough. Hong Junxian said with a cold smile, Old Forefather has Jindan cultivation, his power limitless. You may have some power, but in front of Old Forefather, you basically have no room to move. How about it? Consider my suggestions. People have to be realistic. A hint of pride unconsciously came onto Hong Junxian's face. Zuemo did not have any interest in wasting words with them. He turned and left. Everyone's perspective was different. Hong Junxian and the others could not understand many of his thoughts. He waved his hand without turning his head. Don't keep these people, make sure they won't come back to haunt us in the future. Hong Junxian and the others' faces instantly turned as pale as paper. After such an encounter, Golden Crow City's name had truly spread through Little Mountain Jia. The rise of this group of people and this city was completely without warning. No one knew their origins. But even the dumbest person knew that the final battle between Golden Crow City and Clear Sky Sect was coming. No matter if it was the black processing meditation mat or this big battle made it so the two could only fight to the death. After this great battle, the gates of Golden Crow City remained tightly shut and under heavy guard. No one knew what was happening inside the walls. The sounds of explosions occasionally came from inside the city. Some Xiozha that were daring desired to fly up into the sky to look, but they were almost killed by the hard lightning released by the formation battle watchtowers. The Golden Crow City that was entirely preparing for battle made the other Xiozha feel the tenseness of the situation even more. There was no one within 100 li of Golden Crow City. Even though they wanted to see with their own eyes like they did previously the great battle that was coming, but they didn't dare this time. Coming from Clear Sky Sect this time would only be one person, Clear Sky Old Forefather. The only Jindan remaining in Little Mountain Jia. The following days were cloudy and unspeakably foreboding. A storm was approaching. Chapter 297, Hardship Guard Armor. Good. Clear Sky Old Forefather said the word, good, repeatedly, unrestrained killing intent spilling out around him. In the sky above Clear Sky Sect, the clouds and wind suddenly changed. The black clouds were dark like lead. All over the sect, all the disciples shook in fear. I had never thought that the line of succession of Clear Sky would end in my hands. Clear Sky Old Forefather looked at his palms that were smooth like those of an infant, his voice as calm as water, but the killing intent in the surroundings was becoming increasingly heavy. He raised his head, his eyes cold. I was just in seclusion for a few months, yet so much has changed. The heavens. Even if it is the will of the heavens, they cannot stop this old forefather. He stood and his eyes scanned the disciples that were standing with their heads bowed below him. If I have still not come back in 10 days, you shall all run for your lives. When he finished, he did not wait for anyone to react before disappearing from the hall. The atmosphere inside Golden Crow City was nervous. In the sky above guard camp, a black energy covered the sky and did not dissipate for days. The Xiozha from Vermilion Bird Camp guarded the gate. Their eyes all held hints of shock. The sharp killing essence was so thick that even they did not feel comfortable. They could not understand how those weak Xiozha slaves could become so terrifying after just a few months. Zhuo nervously looked at the field and the rows of camp guards lined up in rows. After returning back to Golden Crow City that day, Shu Long and the others had maintained this position motionlessly for 10 days. The thick killing essence on their bodies made them look like the gods of slaughter that came from hell. The black energy around each person was restlessly moving. Shu Long's black energy was so thick that it was not possible to see his figure or features. They were completely covered by the black energy. Are they all right? Zhuo was very worried. If they can make it through, then they'll be fine. If they can't, then all that is left for them is death. Pu Yao's voice was unconcerned, but Zhuo could still heard the thread of nervousness contained inside. All of this killing essence needs to be completely absorbed into the body? And no one knows everything about the profound mysteries of essence. Mo emphasized slaughter, and their killing essence is the strongest. Their killing essence can become tangible, which is quite a coincidence. However, for them, this opportunity to make a breakthrough is slightly early. I don't know if they can make it through. At this time, Shu Long's body suddenly started to tremble, the black energy that shrouded his body fiercely moving restlessly. It has started! Pu Yao exclaimed. Zhuo's heart rose. The black energy was like slender worms that continuously burrowed into Shu Long's body. Shu Long's shaking increased in magnitude. Killing essence corroding the body is the most difficult barrier. Pu Yao stared fixedly at Shu Long and said rapidly, "Their bodies are naturally weak. If they want to keep cultivating, they must get through this gate." If that guy was still alive, this would actually be the simplest matter. Zhuo didn't dare to move away his eyes. People were not plants. It was impossible to be emotionless upon familiarity. No matter what thoughts these Xiao slaves had, he could clearly feel the trust they had in him. Every single one of them were willing to put their lives on the line for him. The battle outside Golden Crow City had proven this. It would be false to say he was not moved. No matter what, he didn't want anything to happen to Shu Long and the others. These last few days, any materials and talismans that were necessary, no matter how expensive, as long as he had it, he unhesitatingly gave it to them. He didn't dare to have great hopes for their breakthrough. He hadn't cultivated for a long time, but he still understood the importance of a solid foundation in cultivation. Shu Long and the others had very shallow foundations. The possibility of a breakthrough was not high. He only hoped that nothing bad would happen to them. No matter how great of a favor he did for Shu Long and the others, they had fought using their lives for him once. Zhuo felt that they had repaid him. Even more, he had never felt that he had done any great favors for Shu Long and the others. Shu Long's body shook like dice. The black energy streamed through his nostrils and his skin. The black energy around his body became faint, and his features started to gradually become clear. Zhuo couldn't help but make a sound of surprise. Shu Long's features had changed greatly. The weariness on his face had disappeared, the wrinkles had disappeared. He appeared much younger. The skin was black and shiny like they had been polished with oil. Zhuo was filled with wonderment. When Shu Long was young, he had been very handsome. A high nose, a knife-sharp brow, a structured face, deep-set eyes, and tightly pressed lips. The flavor of weariness had disappeared to be replaced by a feeling of deep maturity. At his forehead, there was a black crystal. Zhuo noticed that some time ago, Shu Long's outside was covered by a suit of shiny black armor. The black armor was connected with his body, tightly pressed against his body, and almost enclosing his whole body. The black heavy armor was brutally pierced through sheer pressure. Compared to the golden armor guards, Shu Long's black suit of armor was tighter and more exquisite. It gave the feeling of stability yet was filled with strength. Guard armor. Pu Yao's voice was filled with surprised joy. What is guard armor? When a hardship guard is cultivated to a certain level, they will create guard armor. This suit of armor has many abilities. When their cultivation deepens, they will be much stronger. Pu Yao said excitedly, when they break through to the next level, they could gather killing essence to form weapons. By that time, Zuomo's heart was filled with joy. He felt happy for Shu Long. Shu Long's breakthrough seemed like a signal. The other camp guards successively created their guard armor. This process continued for 10 whole hours. In these 10 hours, Zuomo didn't dare to leave for an instant. When the last camp guard finished his breakthrough, Shu Long's tightly closed eyes opened. The gaze was as bright as a star and as deep as a star was distant. He lowered his body in a bow, a greeting that Zuomo had never seen before. In the name of the hardship guard, to follow Darren, never leaving or abandoning. Shu Long's voice was completely different than before, deep and resonant, pleasing to the ear. In the name of the hardship guard, we follow Darren, never leaving or abandoning. 1,000 hardship guards bowed at the same time. Zuomo was stunned. Rong Wei hadn't retreated far away like the other Xiuzhe. She was looking from a distance on a peak. On a peak nearby there was a large male and a middle-aged person. Other than that, there were some other scattered Xiuzhe, the great majority of which were Ningmai third stratum Xiuzhe. It was a rare chance to personally see Jindan fight. This wasn't guidance or sparring, but a battle to the death. Up until now, no one had seen the mysterious master of Golden Crow City fight. The only offensive move would probably be activating the Skyring Moonchime formation. However, other than seeing that his skill in formations was extremely deep, it was not possible to see anything about his power. It would be seen in this battle. Rong Wei had other thoughts. Truthfully, she didn't favor the master of Golden Crow City. Clear Sky Old Forefather was a person that even the Marquis was slightly wary of. His power was not so simple. Only Xiuzhe that knew Jindan would know how strong a Jindan was. To say of nothing else, but the movement speed would leave Ningmai in the dust was enough for a Jindan to be undefeatable. The difference in casting spells was a difference in the nature of power. Fighting using numbers was not something that could be used against Jindan. This meant that Golden Crow City was fated to only defend. It also meant that Clear Sky Old Forefather would always have the initiative. It was a terrifying matter for a Jindan that had the initiative and did not lack attacking moves. Rong Wei definitely would not enter into this battle. She didn't have any qualifications. However, if Golden Crow City was defeated, based on the Marquis's face, she may be able to save that Moon Silver Battle General. It would be too much of a pity if such a young Moon Silver Battle General died here. And if she took the chance to recruit him, that was the idea she had. She reflexively looked at the large male and the middle-aged person nearby. She detected the origins of these two would not be small. Inside, she hoped that these people did not have the same idea that she did. Otherwise, another battle of slaughter could not be avoided. Even more importantly, if the old forefather discovered that young person was a silver battle general, they didn't have to think of the matter anymore. Old forefather would either recruit him or kill him. There was no reason to let such a talent work under someone else. This plan would only succeed if Clear Sky Old Forefather was ignorant. Suddenly, a wave rippled across the sky in the distance. A vast presence that could not be stopped covered all of Sky Star Mountain range. Everyone's expression changed. They felt their body freeze and were shocked. He had come. The golden light of Golden Crow City suddenly brightened, countless golden energies leaping up and swimming like fish. They moved to cover the sky above Golden Crow City. Each formation battle watchtower lit up with silver lights. In a blink of an eye, all 36 formation battle watchtowers were alight. A golden hoop rose into the sky, spreading a burning golden light. Countless golden threads dangled off, and a faint Buddhist chanting could be heard. Clear Sky Old Forefather seemed to appear out of nowhere in the sky above Golden Crow City. Hair loose, he looked to be in his 40s, but his skin was like that of an infant. A snowy white robe was carelessly tied on his body. He faintly glanced at the people hiding at a distance to watch the fight. Everyone felt their hearts uncontrollably jump and were even more shocked. The authority of a Jindan was fierce. "Little Miss Rong, is the Marquis well?" The clear sky old forefather faintly opened as though he was speaking of daily activities. Rong Wei could only come out. "With the good fortune of old forefather, Marquis is well." "Oh, then why is Marquis trying to fight for this little Jia with me?" Clear sky old forefather's voice was still faint. Rong Wei felt her breathing stop and almost fell. Her scalp pricking, she could only say, "Old forefather is joking. With old forefather here, Marquis won't disturb you." Marquis only heard that stars in daytime has appeared in Little Mountain Jia, and sent this servant to investigate. Before coming, Marquis had especially ordered this servant to first inform old forefather. "Oh, so that's how it is," old forefather nodded. "After this matter, I will go visit the Marquis. If you wish to see this battle, go back 50 more li." The tone that clear sky old forefather spoke to her was very warm, but for some unknown reason, Rong Wei's heart froze. She didn't dare to hesitate, and hurriedly retreated 50 li back. "Everyone else, retreat 100 li, clear sky old forefather said lightly, in 10 breaths. Otherwise, don't blame this old forefather for being impolite." The atmosphere in the air was instantly as heavy as mountains. The other people were even more shocked and retreated in panic. The large male and the middle-aged person's expressions couldn't help but change. They exchanged a look and retreated at the same time. No one dared to disobey a Jindan. At this time, clear sky old forefather's gaze casually turned to Golden Crow City. Chapter 298, Insanity. Who killed Zhuguang? Clear sky old forefather's voice was not loud but could be heard from far away. With clear sky old forefather stalking outside, Zuo didn't dare to idly relax on the lucky cloud like he did previously. However, this did not stop him for feeling scorn. Goof finally knows why the people from Clear Sky sect waste so many words. It starts at the top. Snort. Several people couldn't resist laughing out loud. The tense atmosphere instantly relaxed. Zuo may have been speaking so, but he was actually very nervous inside. Wukong Sword Sect had 4 Jindan experts, but he had never seen any Jindan expert release their presence without any restraint. Even that day that Wei Sheng entered Juji, Exen Yen Shibua had not used all of his power. The pressure clear sky old forefather gave Zuo was like a whole mountain pressing down. He almost couldn't breathe. Jindan was just as terrifying as he expected. He didn't have any interest in wasting words. Since the two had gotten to this step, they didn't need any excuse to fight. What, first diplomacy, then war, wasn't that just nonsense? Formation battle watchtowers, attack together. Zuo gridded out the order. The silver light of the 36 formation battle watchtowers exploded. Hundreds of bolts of hard light covered clear sky old forefather like raindrops. Slightly interesting. Clear sky old forefather smiled easily, his figure suddenly disappearing from his spot. Hundreds of hard lightning bolts missed and vanished into the sky. Hiss, Zuo couldn't help but inhale. Such a fast speed. His consciousness could not catch clear sky old forefather's speed. It was the first time he had encountered a situation like this. The other Xiuzhe in Golden Crow City all paled. No one could keep up with the speed of clear sky old forefather. He was so fast that even the hard lightning was slightly slower. Even Zuo had predicted that this battle would be extremely difficult, but it seemed the level of difficulty far surpassed his imagination. Without needing Zuo to give the order, the second wave of hard lightning shot towards clear sky old forefather. It was ineffective. Zuo silently shook his head. The other was too fast, so fast that even the hard lightning could not catch up. As expected, clear sky old forefather disappeared from his spot again. Couldn't catch him. Zuo's pupils suddenly contracted. That wasn't right. Clear sky old forefather suddenly appeared in front of a bolt of hard lightning and raised his palm. ZZTZZTZZT. The hard lightning seemed to have been stopped by an invisible wall that did not allow it to advance. It stopped at a place 3 CUN from his upright palm. Clear sky old forefather calmly reached out to pinch the hard lightning. Pia pia pia. The explosive hard lightning sounded and the snake-like electrical energies wrapped onto his finger. Clear sky old forefather seemed to not notice it. He put the hard lightning bolt in front of him and examined it. The flashing silver electricity reflected on his face, suddenly light and then it went dim. The idea is clever, very rare, very rare. A hint of shock came onto clear sky old forefather's face. Other than surprise, he seemed to have admiration. As his words landed, 2 white and narrow fingers pinched. The hard lightning bolt between the fingers was squeezed into countless pieces of electricity and dissipated between his fingers. Golden Crow City was in a deathly silence. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Terror came onto Zwamo's face. That was hard lightning. Using fingers to crush hard lightning. That wasn't possible. Zwamo's mind was blank. The strength of clear sky old forefather was far out of his imaginations. He stood there, dumbstruck. Clear sky old forefather wasn't in a hurry. He asked faintly, "Who built the formation battle watchtowers? They can be spared from death." Zwamo gradually recovered. Thinking about how stunned he had been, he was slightly embarrassed. So he was this afraid of death. The surroundings were deathly silent. Golden Crow City was completely suppressed by clear sky old forefather. Some people even had expressions of hopelessness. Zwamo's gaze accidentally swept across the female Shio beside him. Just like usual, the female Shio was silently standing beside him like a wooden person. She was completely unaffected by clear sky old forefather. Zwamo was even more embarrassed. Gu wasn't even as good as a woman. He raised his head and gazed at clear sky old forefather floating in the sky. His anger suddenly erupted like fire. This guy looked quite fine, but his intentions were extremely malicious. In this guy's eyes, the lives of other Shioja were not even worth a jingsher. The more Zwamo thought, the angrier he became. If it wasn't for this guy, he would have left Little Mountain Jie a long time ago. He wouldn't be worried and frightened every day like he was now. Gu will play with you to the end today. Zwamo became determined. Terror and fear instantly flew away. Continue to shoot. Zwamo ordered murderously. The other people stilled. Continue to shoot? But that was completely ineffective. However, when their gaze met Zwamo's vicious gaze, they instantly shook. Boss was going all out. They became fully alert, and their terror of clear sky old forefather instantly dissipated greatly. The formation battle watchtowers lit up again. Scorn spilled out of the corner of clear sky old forefather's eyes. The light brightening, the hard lightning shot at clear sky old forefather again like raindrops. Do not stop. Zwamo's shout could be heard by the entire city. The Shioja in the formation battle watchtowers put their all in as their hearts shook. The hard lightning was like rain, and extremely loud. A light laugh passed from within the torrent of hard lightning. Not one bolt of hard lightning managed to touch the hem of clear sky old forefather's clothes. This time, he did not disappear from his spot, but nimbly dodged among the hard lightning rain. For some unknown reason, his speed did not appear to be quick, but not one hard lightning bolt could hit him. When clear sky old forefather's light laugh landed in the ears of the Shioja in the formation battle watchtowers, it instantly enraged all of them. All of them furiously channeled Ling power into the formation battle watchtower. The light of the 36 formation battle watchtowers was so bright one could not look directly at them. The hard lightning was even more heavy like a storm. With a savage presence, it head over. Kiki. The light laugh of clear sky old forefather clearly passed into the ears of everyone present again. Zwamo's tightly pressed lips suddenly curved slightly upwards on one side. Clang. In the sky above Golden Crow City, the Buddha sound hoop suddenly released a ball of golden light. The lingering Buddhist sound rose up. An invisible ripple suddenly spread with Golden Crow City as the center. The killing move of Skyring Moonchime Formation. Moonchime Sound Storm. Clear Sky Old Forefather, who had been composed from the start, suddenly froze in surprise. Unable to dodge in time, a bolt of hard lightning hit his face. Pia! Electrical snakes danced on his face. The body of Clear Sky Old Forefather froze. Pia pia pia! Several more bolts of hard lightning hit his body in succession. Boom! The writhing electrical snakes collided with each other and released a blinding light. Clear Sky Old Forefather was completely covered by the hard lightning, and it was hard to make out his figure. Ha! Zhuemo was very excited and wanted to jump up. The reason that he had ordered the formation battle watchtowers to continue to shoot was to give Clear Sky Old Forefather the impression that the formation battle watchtowers were their biggest support. His mind was connected with Lil Pagoda. The timing to which the moon chime sound storm was activated was perfect. Hee, so what if he's a Jindan? Didn't he just trick him? Zhuemo was very smug and felt unspeakable comfortable, like he had eaten a ginseng fruit. However, he didn't hope that the hard lightning was enough to kill Clear Sky Old Forefather. The other's actions of crushing the hard lightning proved that hard lightning of this degree could not cause fatal damage. However, after this successful attack on Clear Sky Old Forefather, the morale of the troops rose. The heavy pressure that was previously present in the city was swept away. Everyone's faces showed excited expressions. While most of the Xiuzhe inside Golden Crow City were Ningmai, and was just a level from Jindan, but 90% of the people had never seen Jindan fight before. Every action that Clear Sky Old Forefather had made had all been to show how strong he was, so strong that it made people feel hopeless. Zhuemo used his actions to prove that Jindan could be hit too. Everyone was greatly motivated. Every one of them believed that this battle might be unparalleled in difficulty, but they did have a chance at victory. They did not fear that battle would be difficult, but they were afraid all of their efforts would be all for naught. The silver light dissipated, and Clear Sky Old Forefather once again appeared in front of everyone. When they clearly saw Clear Sky Old Forefather's state, everyone roared in laughter. Clear Sky Old Forefather's robe now had some holes like that of a beggar. What really set them off uncontrollably was the black burns on his face. Zhuemo roared with laughter. He suddenly flew into the sky, his right hand raised up high as he shouted at everyone in the city, "Everyone listen well. Shout with me." Everyone stopped laughing. They raised their heads, furiously gathering their Ling power. Excitement and exhilaration was on everyone's faces. Zhuemo turned around and faced Clear Sky Old Forefather. He took a deep breath, pointed with his finger towards Old Forefather, and hollered, "Old Fart." The 7,000 or so people inside Golden Crow City used all their strength to shout at the same time, "Old Fart." The simultaneous shout of more than 7,000 people was so loud that even the mountain peaks trembled, and the echoes reflected back. Zhuemo's eyes were glaring angrily. Using all the strength in his body, he shouted again, "Don't show off." All of Golden Crow City followed in shouting, "Don't show off." Zhuemo shouted at the top of his lungs, "Show-offs get struck by lightning." Everyone felt the blood in their bodies shoot towards their heads. Without thinking, the Ling power in their bodies channeling to the limit, more than 7,000 people shouted angrily in unison, "Show-offs get struck by lightning." The shout passed into the surroundings. A sound wave exploded with Golden Crow City as the center, the sound not any less than the previous, moon chime sound storm. The entire mountain valley was echoing, struck by lightning. Zhuemo felt unspeakably great. His hands on his hips, he threw his head back and laughed, "Ha ha." An excited blush was on everyone's faces. They all copied Zhuemo in putting their hands on their hips and throwing their heads back to laugh. Ha ha ha. The laughter of more than 7,000 people was filled with excitement and bravado, able to be heard from far away. Rong Wei gaped and was stunned. The middle-aged person's face was filled with shock. However, the large male was very excited, repeating to himself, "So great! So great! This is so great!" Green and white intermingled on Clear Sky Old Forefather's face. All of the calmness, the mannerisms of an expert was thrown to the back of his head. His hair loose, His eyes gleamed viciously like a poisonous snake waiting to strike. Zuoremo seemed to be completely mad at this point. He raised his hand again. Everyone saw his hand motions and suppressed their own voices. Golden Crow City became so silent that the sound of a needle landing on the ground could be heard. Zuomo's eyes were entirely red, and he said murderously, "Brothers." He paused slightly and then exploded, "Fuck him." The thousands under him didn't even think as they shouted together, "Fuck him." Zuoemo felt all the emotions inside reached a peak. He suddenly increased his volume again as he raged, "Kill him." Everyone was glaring as they hollered together, "Kill him." The killing energy was so much that the sky changed color. Chapter 299, The Great Formation and Sonic Lightning Walnut. The clear sky old forefather felt an angry energy roiling restlessly inside his chest. Without a care to anything else, he took out his flying sword and said darkly, "You all will die." Before the sound landed and Zuoemo was even able to see the appearance of the flying sword disappeared from in front of clear sky old forefather. Everyone in Golden Crow City felt the entire sky start to slowly spin. Everything in the surroundings started to become blurry. Zuoemo suddenly remembered that Huang Zhuoguang used the sky sword essence. Then clear sky old forefather's sky sword essence would probably be multiple times as pure. Damn it. It would be better if the guy would fly a bit closer. Zuoemo glanced at clear sky old forefather that was still far away from Golden Crow City and had to admire the person. Even though he was so angry, he still kept his calm. As expected of a Jin Dan expert. The spinning sky suddenly lit up with many dots of light like countless stars being ignited. A feeling of extreme danger came into Zuomo's mind. He didn't dare to be careless, hurriedly activating the formation. Countless formation scripts suddenly lit up on the walls of Golden Crow City like complex flower patterns. A half-transparent golden ling shield wrapped Golden Crow City inside. Everyone's hearts eased slightly. At this moment, they heard clear sky old forefathers say clearly, "Land." The dots of light above their heads lit up, and countless swords of light fell from the skies like a rainstorm, crashing against the ling shield of Golden Crow City. The ling shield trembled heavily. The sharp sounds of collisions were as rapid as raindrops. Everyone felt their hearts jump at each sound. Zuoemo pulled Shu Long over. "Use the move you used last time." Shu Long understood and hurried back to the ranks. Shu Long's long hair flying, the black crystal on his forehead, and his eyes bent down. He shouted gravely, "Kill!" Threads of black energy erupted from their bodies at an astounding rate. In the blink of an eye, the ranks of guard camp were covered in a black energy that blocked out the sun. As the black energy rose, it was not affected by the ling shield, and gathered in the sky above Golden Crow City. A ball of restless black clouds covered all of Golden Crow City. The raindrops of sword energies instantly became invisible as they landed in the black cloud. The clear sky old forefather showed surprise again. Even with all of his knowledge, he did not know what powerful spell the other was using. In the Zuomo's sea of consciousness, Pu Yao unconcernedly said to the gravestone, "This old fart, just a Jin Dan, and he dares to posture in front of this sky Yao. He doesn't want to live." His eyebrow rose and he snorted, "Fuck him." He suddenly found his tone when he said this was truly too much like Zuomo. He instantly chose to close his mouth. As a sky Yao, copying other people's way of talking, especially Zuomo, made him feel he was losing face. It's just a pity that Shu Long and his group has only cultivated for a short amount of time. Otherwise, so boring. Pu Yao said to himself. For the first time, clear sky old forefather had a serious expression. It had been a scheme of the other that had caused him to be struck by the formation battle watchtowers. But this black cloud clearly was some kind of spell or formation. This was true power. To be able to stop the attack of a Jindan Xiuzhe, it truly could be called powerful. It didn't seem too much like a spell. With a Ningmai cultivation, it wasn't possible to cast such a powerful spell. The only thing he could think of was formations. But a normal sect couldn't possess such a powerful formation. This group of people probably had mighty origins. Clear Sky Old Forefather's heart jumped. He wasn't afraid of this group of Ningmai. Even if he had to kill all of them, it would just take him some more time. What he was worried about was if he killed the young ones, the old one would come. With the wealth of Clear Sky sect, they didn't have such a powerful formation. If an even more powerful expert came, then he would have a terrible ending. Clear Sky Old Forefather knew how much he was worth. Being a ruler in an out-of-the-way place like Little Mountain Jie was achievable, but if he was in the larger Jies, he would never get a turn. However, he turned his thinking around. Since the grievance between the two had already been set and could not be resolved, the best solution was to kill this entire group and prevent the news from spreading. Thinking about this, the viciousness in his eyes grew, and he was filled with murderous intent. He had spent great amount of time on Clear Sky Sword scripture. Other than this flying sword, he had nothing else on his body. He reached out with his finger, and a sword energy multiple zhang thick shot down. The sword energy seemed to collide with the black cloud when it suddenly turned to countless tiny sword energies that nimbly went around the black cloud and smashed on the Ling shield of Golden Crow City. Clang. The countless sword energies were like countless transparent snakes that hit the Ling shield at the same exact moment. When the sound of the collisions gathered together, it was one sound that entered everyone's ears. The Ling shield of Golden Crow City shook fiercely. Zuomo's expression changed slightly. He controlled all of Golden Crow City, and he was aware just how strong this attack had been. If something like this came a few more times, the Ling shield of Golden Crow City would collapse. He bit his lips tightly. Xiuzhe and Jindan were too outrageously powerful. What was the grade of this old fart's flying sword? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. At this point, there was no time to think, they could only bear it. Clear Sky Old Forefather flew in the sky and didn't land at all. He was too far away and so they couldn't use any other moves. His mind suddenly moved. Pointing above his head, he shouted at Shu Long, "Can you change that to a different shape and cover the Ling shield?" Shu Long grimaced and didn't dare to speak. The Crow Fiend Mo kill formation was at its limit. The black cloud slowly started to land. In the end, it landed on the Ling shield. Following that, it started to fall against the Ling shield. After a while, it completely covered the Ling shield. Everyone felt the sky darken and the city was in darkness. Clear Sky Old Forefather saw this and was overjoyed. This way, didn't they trap themselves inside? The black cloud might increase the defenses of the Ling shield, but they had blocked their own sight. Even he couldn't see what was inside the black cloud. He didn't believe the other could see. Idiotic. However, this was the difference in strength. The difference between the two sides was too great. The murderous intent in Clear Sky Old Forefather's eyes reached a peak. How could he miss such a good opportunity? He didn't seem to move but suddenly disappeared from his spot and appeared dozens of zhang above Golden Crow City. Looking at Golden Crow City under his feet that was wrapped in the black cloud, a cruel smile was on his lips. "All of you should die." He raised his palm. A flying sword as blue as the sky appeared at the center of his palm and floated silently. He gently pushed up. The flying sword turned to a blue light, flew into the sky and disappeared. Suddenly, a bright dot of light appeared in an extremely distant place far above his head. A smug expression came onto his face. How long has it been since he used this move? Too long. His famed killing move appearing again. It really was emotional. No one could stop this killing move, no one ever had. Golden Crow City was soon to disappear, to be forcefully erased from Sky Star Peak. He felt a slight bit of regret. Truthfully, he liked this little city a lot. It was a truly enchanting little city. But everything would be destroyed. The smile on his face suddenly froze. He saw the mountain peaks across from him suddenly shake vigorously. Large patches of earth shifted in rock slides and revealed the granite underneath. What was this? His body was suddenly restrained by an enormous force. The air in the surroundings seemed to become solid and heavy. He tried to move his body. Each movement became extremely difficult. He felt as though he had landed in an enormous spider web. His head rang and blanked. Immediately after, large burst of lava sprouted out of the earth and slowly advanced along the hills. He saw a soul-shaking scene underneath his feet. There seemed to be an invisible red pen drawing out vivid red lines among the mountains. These lines were determined in their advance as they created a strange picture. Clear Sky Old Forefather felt there were countless strong and heavy chains tying him tightly so he couldn't move. At this time, the black cloud outside Golden Crow City had dissipated. The damned person flew into the sky. Zwarimo was very proud inside. Did you think G couldn't see? Gu has Ling Eye, understand? But he knew this wasn't the time to celebrate. His hand flipping, a sonic lightning walnut covered in golden patterns appeared on his palm. Sonic lightning walnut. Clear Sky Old Forefather saw the sonic lightning walnut in Zwarimo's hands. His expression changed dramatically. Zwarimo didn't waste words, raising his hand and smashing it at Clear Sky Old Forefather. Boom! When the sonic lightning walnut left Zwarimo's palm, it turned to a golden ball of flame the size of his face surrounded by countless silver electrical energies. The sound of the explosions continued and was extremely shocking. Clear Sky Old Forefather's eyeballs almost fell out. This guy actually used sonic lightning walnuts to make one-use talismans? Was this guy crazy? Sonic lightning walnuts were fourth-grade materials. He suddenly reacted, and his soul almost left his body. Damn it! This was a fourth-grade material. He didn't have the attention to spare for preparing his killing move. The flying sword turned to a stream of light and shot at the sonic lightning walnut flying at Clear Sky Old Forefather. Before he could rejoice, he saw another sonic lightning walnut in Zwarimo's hands. The surface was covered with golden patterns, just like the previous one. Clear Sky Old Forefather instantly turned white. He couldn't spare the energy for anything else. He furiously channeled his Ling power to break from his restraints. All the Ling power inside his body was used. His figure started to move bit by bit. After a while, the speed increased greatly. Seeing the situation, Zwarimo knew this was the most important moment. Disregarding the pain in his heart, he threw and then another walnut appeared in his hand. In one go, he threw out more than 10 sonic lightning walnuts. The golden balls of fire carried a savage presence as they headed for Clear Sky Old Forefather who was moving at turtle speed. The sky filled with the sound of explosions like countless waves of lightning rolling past and caused the mountains to shake. Clear Sky Old Forefather's complexion could not be described by white any longer. He didn't have the bravery. He had never seen someone forge sonic lightning walnuts into one-use talismans. How wealthy was that person that he dared to do so? Boom! Clear Sky Old Forefather's flying sword accurately struck a sonic lightning walnut and exploded. Zwarimo felt light explode in his vision. The light was so blinding that only golden light remained in his eyes and he was unable to see anything else. Boom boom boom. Zwarimo's eyes could only see golden light, so bright that he was blind. He felt an enormous beast had charged at him, and his entire body was thrown into the air. He was dumbstruck. Chapter 300 Sacrifice. Zwarimo barely managed to steady himself. It was the female Shio that reached out a hand to catch him. Blood was streaming out of his ears and nose. His face was white, the Ling armor and clothes all torn to pieces. The power from the explosions of more than 10 sonic lightning walnuts was far outside of his imagination. Nothing was left at Clear Sky Old Forefather's position. Thinking about that terrifying power, and the strength that could topple mountains and flip the seas, Zwarimo's calves shook. In a flash, he thought about the first time he had used a Een fire bead. Gu had been careless. The Een beads he had made in the past were second grade. The stalagmite fire was also a second-grade fire, but the power of the Een fire bead forged was already great. How could the power of something forged through sonic lightning walnuts and golden crow fire be weak? They were all fourth grade. The golden thread lightning walnut forged from 2 types of fourth-grade materials using the Een fire bead forging method was unparalleled in its power. If he had been even the slightest bit closer, he would have. He felt fear, but since they finally killed Clear Sky Old Forefather, he hadn't risked his life for nothing. Suddenly, a feeling of danger came into his heart. He reflexively raised his head. An enormous shadow carrying a threatening presence dived down at astounding speed from the sky above his head. Clear Sky Old Forefather hadn't died. Zwamo's expression changed dramatically. "Go die!" A shout filled with fury and murderous intent exploded above his head. Clear Sky Old Forefather's clothing and Ling armor and completely broken apart. His hair loose, there was blood flowing out of the corner of his mouth, and his left arm had disappeared. The power of the sonic lightning walnuts had almost destroyed his soul. Under such an emergency, he had used a secret technique at a cost of 3/10 of his cultivation and had barely managed to escape. But even so, his losses were painful. His left arm had been broken and his flying sword had been destroyed. His most painful loss was the loss of 3/10 of his cultivation. This meant that his cultivation could collapse at any moment and return back to the stage of Ningmai. How could he not be furious? The loss of cultivation was every Xiujia's greatest fear. Today, he definitely had to cut these people into pieces. There was only this one thought in Clear Sky Old Forefather's mind. Clear Sky Sword scripture was pushed to its limits. The sky above Golden Crow City seemed to solidify. In an instant, the sky seemed to become a vast piece of transparent crystal. Clouds, dust, sunlight, everything was solidified in that moment, motionless and lifeless. Sunlight could not pass through the solidified sky. It created an enormous shadow that covered all of Golden Crow City. The silent killing essence caused everyone to feel terror. Ping! The clear sound of crystal breaking. The solidified crystal-like sky suddenly became covered in a web of cracks. The cracks grew at a rapid rate as though there was an invisible hammer continuously striking this piece of crystal sky. Shu Long was stunned. The road they walked was the one of killing essence, and they were most sensitive to killing essence. At this time, they could not attend to anything else. He shouted, "Kill!" The hearts of everyone in guard camp shook, and they shouted simultaneously, "Kill!" The black cloud rose and turned to a black python several dozen zhang long and several zhang thick. With a hiss, it viciously leapt towards Clear Sky Old Forefather who was above Zwamo's head. Clear Sky Old Forefather was not alarmed at all. With a cold laugh, he pointed with a finger. Whoosh! The crystal sky covered in cracks above his head turned to large patches of transparent fragments that spun as they turned to a sword essence twister that dove at the black python. Clear Sky Sword scripture, shattering sky. Boom! The two enormous entities collided without finesse and created an earth-shaking sound. The pitiful Zwaimo was thrown up again by the wave of air. Damn it! Several Sky Sword essence pieces left bloody marks on his body. He disregarded the pain and looked towards the battlefield. He couldn't help but inhale sharply. Countless crystal-like fragments of sword essence floated in front of Clear Sky Old Forefather. He was bleeding from his mouth and nose. In the collision against the black python, he hadn't escaped unscathed, but his gaze became even more vicious. When Zwaimo met Clear Sky Old Forefather's gaze, his heart instantly shook. The other was going all out. Shu Long's figure shook, and he gave a muffled grunt, his face pale. The other camp guards staggered and collapsed as though they were drunk. Pu Yao's anger inside the necklace could not be restrained. Trash! You group of trash! One Jindan makes all of you this sorry-looking. How can you live in the future? I, the honored Sky Yao, cannot have such trash under my command. A grimace came onto Shu Long's face. They had just made a breakthrough. They needed a period of time to acclimate themselves with their bodies. Their loss this time really hadn't come at a good time. His eyes suddenly widened, and he had a joyous expression. At some unknown time, the female Xiu appeared behind Clear Sky Old Forefather and pointed. There was a chance. Everyone had ecstatic expressions. They had all seen with their own eyes before how powerful the female Xiu was. The female Xiu was definitely the strongest person in all of Golden Crow City. She finally acted. For some unknown reason, Zwamo's heart suddenly sank. The purple light in the female Shio's eyes were as bright as two balls of purple fire. It was the first time he had seen the purple light in her eyes be so bright. Haha, all of you die. Clear Sky Old Forefather laughed madly. The shattered crystal sky above his head suddenly collapsed. Countless transparent sword essence fragments flowed down like an avalanche. Countless fragments passed through Clear Sky Old Forefather's body in bursts of blood. Clear Sky Old Forefather did not feel the pain and continued to laugh. Zuomo's head rang. A suicidal attack. He wanted them to perish together. The area of the sky multiple mu large above Golden Crow City had completely collapsed. Countless, vast, and ethereal sword essence fragments with an unstoppable presence fell from the sky. Countless sword essences penetrated Clear Sky Old Forefather's body. They turned from glowing and transparent to becoming blood-stained glass. The vast and ethereal sword essence suddenly had a presence that was determined and tragic. With the sky as the sword, using the body as the guide, blood sky. Everyone's face became pale. It was a terrifying matter if a Jindan Shioha decided to take everyone to the gates of hell with him. Watching from afar, Rong Wei's expression changed. There was only one thought in her mind: Golden Crow City was finished. The large male and the middle-aged person changed expressions at the same time. A thought simultaneously flashed through their minds: Golden Crow City was finished. There was no difficulty for a Jindan Shioja to use a secret technique to release an attack with all their power without regard for the consequences. As a result, fights between Jindan were more cautious. If one side was pushed to the precipice, their last attack before death was extremely terrifying. Even Rong Wei and the others had never seen a Jindan expert go all out. Rong Wei was stunned. She was very knowledgeable, but the power of Clear Sky Old Forefather was far beyond of her predictions. Even among Sky Water Jie's Jindan, Clear Sky Old Forefather's power would definitely rank among the top 3. At this time, she suddenly understood why the Marquis was so wary of Clear Sky Old Forefather. For some reason, she sighed inside. They admired Golden Crow City for pushing a Jindan to the point they had to fight using their life. It was just a pity. The entire sky above Golden Crow City was pulled in. All of the sword essence had completely lost control. As Clear Sky Old Forefather laughed crazily, his entire person exploded into a ball of bloody mist and was completely sucked into the uncontrolled sword essences. An area 50 li in radius around Golden Crow City was completely covered. What made people feel hopeless was that any movement method would be ineffective in leaving the area covered by the sword essence. They couldn't even escape. Unless they also were Jindan and had high-grade movement methods, could they escape this calamity. The sky covered everything with the blood-colored sword essence and was unavoidable. Lava flowed among the 7 mountain peaks. Golden Crow City seemed to become hell. Damn it. Hopelessness floated on Zuomo's face. Suddenly, his side darkened, and a figure appeared in front of him. It was her. The female Shio was covered in bloody marks. Blood had soaked through many parts of her clothing. That pair of perfect bare feet was even more heart-moving in the patch of blood. Some time ago, the mask on her face had been destroyed and revealed her hideous face. Zuomo first stilled. When he wanted to speak, the female Shio suddenly flew over his head. Her arms were open like a big bird, her face raised, and her entire body consumed in the purple flame. She was like a moth flying towards the fire, heading straight for the blood-colored sword tide that was crashing down. The purple fire was burning so high they could not make out her figure. For an unknown reason, Zuomo's chest suddenly felt extreme pain. His tears uncontrollably flooded out, large teardrops falling down his face. What was going on? The tears blurred his vision. His chest was in great pain as though something was going to erupt. His ears could only hear the howls of the sword essence covering the sky above his head that had formed a flood and had an appearance of an apocalyptic disaster. Time suddenly became extremely slow. The extreme pain at his chest was so clear at this moment, like a thread of flame burning constantly. Under that sword essence wave, the figure covered in the purple flame was as minuscule as dust. So painful. The pain burned every one of his nerves. He couldn't suppress it any longer, using all of his strength to shout, "Arf!" The enormous pain was like a tide, coming in brutally and sweeping his entire body. He didn't seem to detect that the bright red lava flowing down the mountains seemed to be pulled up by an invisible hand. In the blink of an eye, the lava wrapped around his legs. The damaged Great Formation on the ground suddenly lit up with a red light. The damaged formation actually managed to still activate. The golden light of Golden Crow City exploded. The lightning from the formation battle watchtowers exploded. The Xiozha inside discovered to their shock that the formation battle watchtowers were completely out of their control. Lava, golden light, and hard lightning headed furiously toward Zuoremo. "Ah!" Zuoremo angrily yelled. His entire body was covered in the lava. Hard lightning and golden light were flashing occasionally between the lava. The abnormal change disturbed everyone. Shu Long's expression changed. Just as he thought to move, he heard the Darren inside the necklace shout, "Don't disturb him." He stilled and then had a joyous expression. Within the lava, Zuoremo felt his consciousness and fleshly body had been separated. He could clearly feel the enormous pain in his body, but at this time, he was like a spectator watching over it all. He could see the 5-element glass bead shaking violently inside his body. He saw the figure above his head that was completely enveloped in the purple fire. She was looking at him. At this point, Zuoremo could see through the purple fire and the lava without any effort. He could see very clearly. He saw a pair of clear eyes filled with joyful surprise and longing. Chapter 301, Desperate Situation Under the Colossal Wave of Sword Energies. The female Xiao enveloped in purple flames looked at Zuoremo deeply. Zuoremo had a disquieting feeling that time was pulled extremely long in this moment. Their gazes met. The female Xiao moved away her eyes, and raised her face again to look at the sword energies falling down towards her. Pia pia pia. Bursts of blood exploded out from her body. She disregarded them. The blood sprayed out and landed in the purple fire, which was like a blood-sucking monster that greedily absorbed the fresh blood. The purple fire grew, snapping and crackling. The hands covered in fresh blood slowly rose up over her head. She took a position as if she was pushing upwards. The purple fire around her quickly streamed towards her upright arms. It was just a simple movement, but it made anyone watching feel it was determined and grim. Her arms pushed upwards. 2 streams of purple fire flowed from her arms and connected end to end. It formed a purple disk of fire about 10 zhang large. All the fire on the female Xiao's body flowed into the purple fire disk without a drop remaining. The purple fire disk spun eerily over her head. Zuoremo looked on dazedly. The female Xiao, who didn't have any trace of purple fire left on her, no longer bleeding from her wounds, but her torn clothes had already become soaked in blood. Only that pair of bare feet was white and left untouched. What shocked him even more was that he could not feel any hint of a presence from the female Xiao. She seemed to have suddenly disappeared, like she had died. Looking coldly from the side, Zuomo's emotions suddenly rippled violently. His howls were like that of a wild beast being burned. Lava, hard lightning, and golden light furiously burrowed into his body destructively as they headed for the deepest reaches of his body. The ripple of his emotions was like pouring oil onto the fire. His situation became even more terrible. Any place that was slightly weak was completely burned up when the golden light, hard lightning, and lava passed. Even the muscles and bones that had been sufficiently tempered before were wavering under such a brutal baptism. But at this moment, all of Zuomo's attention was attracted by the female Xiao. A stream of tears continuously flowed from his eyes, yet he did not detect it. The 5-element glass bead in his chest jumped rhythmically like a heart, as though something was going to break through. She definitely had more than a common connection to him. At this point, Zuoremo was certain of this point. The enchanting purple fire disk spun above the female Xiao's head. A power that made people feel trepidation slowly spread. For Zuomo's emotional upheaval became even more violent. He wanted to ask her this question, but his body was completely out of his control. No matter how he tried, he could not reclaim control of his own body. The collapsing sword essence came even closer. Zhuomo's panic increased. Damn it! Why couldn't he control his own body? His heart had a fierce impulse. He wanted to control his own body. He wanted to ask her why. He didn't want her shield him from the front. Damn it! Zhuomo felt there was a ball of fire burning in his chest. He had never had an impulse that was as strong as this one. He knew if he took control of his body at this moment, his soul would have to endure the flames. But he wanted. Zhuomo's body shook violently. His screams became even more furious. To ask her. His eyes were bright red and bloodshot. The tendons in his forehead had bulged out. The blood vessels in his body were like earthworms. The sword essence sped increasingly near the female Xiao and was less than 10 zhang from the purple fire disk. The female Xiao suddenly lowered her head to look at him. Something seemed to explode in Zhuomo's mind. Boom! His mind blanked. All of the Ling power, consciousness, every drop of power contained in every bit of his muscles suddenly exploded. His body suddenly created an extremely strong attraction. The lava, hard lightning, and golden light that had been rampaging inside his body were sucked in. A familiar yet unfamiliar voice echoed. Don't forget, even in death you cannot forget, layering and in waves like thunder. In the sky, the colossal sword essence heavily collided on the purple fire disk. Pew pew pew. When a sword energy landed inside the purple fire disk, it was like pouring water into hot oil. Purple wisps of flame spat forth. The sword energies were relentless like a flood as they attacked the purple fire disk. The arms of the female Xiao suddenly became weighted, and her body shook slightly. Zhuomo was like a wild beast at death's door as he furiously howled. The body of the female Xiao shook. Zhuomo's body shook at the same time. He was like an enraged wild beast. Why? His body suddenly started to tremble. An expression of pain came onto his face. His voice uncontrollably became smaller. Why? Even if his consciousness had been cultivated, but the pain from his soul being burned would not decrease due to that. The different kinds of forces inside his body seesawed. Enormous pain came from the burning of his soul. He felt like a shrimp being boiled. Every part of his body was trembling. He wanted to ask her. The arms of the female Xiao were slowly pushed down. An astounding force passed from the purple fire disk. He gritted his teeth. A stream of fresh blood spilled from the corner of his mouth. He wanted to ask her. Zhuomo's entire body shook fiercely, but he didn't shout this time. He had a deathly stare as he bit down on his teeth, a stream of fresh blood coming out of the corner of his mouth. Boom! The flames of the purple fire disk frantically consumed, but there were too many sword energies that forcibly suppressed the flames of the purple fire disk. They continuously pushed down on the purple fire disk. The female Xiao shook even harder. With a muffled grunt, her body suddenly sank down. He wanted to ask her, why below the female Xiao. Zhuomo raised his head with difficulty. His eyes were entirely red and filled with blood. An amazing change was happening to his body. The silver hard lightning swam across the surface of his body like countless silver snakes. The golden light furiously burrowed into his bones, and the threads of pure earth fire inside the crimson lava crawled into his channels. Having lost their targets, the Ling and spiritual power slowly steadied. Boom! The figure of the female Xiao above him sank again. The golden light of the Ling shield of Golden Crow City was burning. When the sky full of sword energies smashed onto it, the golden Ling shield rippled. Everyone knew this was the most crucial time, and put all of their power into fighting. Shu Long led the guard camp and activated the Crow Fiend Mo killing formation again. The battle formations of Vermilion Bird Camp were primary offensive. Defense was not one of their talents. The only thing they could do was to activate some of the simpler defensive formations and contribute as much as they could. Lil Pagoda spun into a 5-colored afterimage. The Skyring Moonchime formation was pressed to its limits. The Xiozha of the eastern and western camps seemed to have gone insane as they furiously switched out the Jingxure. Everyone knew that if the Ling's shield broke, no one could escape the calamity. At this time, everyone directly experienced just how strong the female Xiao was. With just her own power, she could stop such a terrifying sword essence. It really was hard to imagine. They had to rely on the big formation of Golden Crow City, and were still wavering when they used all their power. The Ling's shield could break at any time. Everyone's face was filled with hopelessness. The sword essence coming down seemed to be endless and unstoppable. A nearby mountain peak was brutally destroyed, only leaving behind the bottom half. If they were not personally experiencing it, no one could imagine that sword essence could reach such a terrifying level. Were their lives really going to be lost here today? This thought uncontrollably flashed across everyone's mind. Gong Sun Cha called over Xie Shan, Ma Fan, and a few others. He said in a low voice, "We probably can't hold out for much longer. Later when the city's Ling shield breaks, you guys take boss and break through." Everyone's face was sorrowful. Each of them tightly bit their lips and didn't speak. Shu Long's nose and mouth bled blood. He bit down on his teeth and continued to channel the Crow Fiend Mo Kill formation. Almost everyone in guard camp were bleeding from their nose and mouth. Boom. The enormous power surpassed the limits that the Crow Fiend Mo Kill formation could tolerate. Shu Long felt as though someone hammered him hard. His entire body was thrown into the air. The camp guards behind him were also thrown up. The Crow Fiend Mo Kill formation was broken. Everyone's expression changed. Without the Crow Fiend Mo Kill formation, the Ling shield of Golden Crow City could not last for long. Just as everyone felt it was hopeless, someone suddenly said in a trembling voice, "Boss? Boss?" Many people instinctively moved their gaze. Even if they would die here today, it wasn't a bad idea if Boss could escape. Many people hoped the female Xiao could take Boss and escape this place. They were filled with terror and hopelessness, but they were not regretful. With Boss, they had a loud and great run. Compared to the lifeless days they had lived before, it was the difference between the earth and the sky. From the bottom of their hearts, they hoped that Boss could live. So when someone exclaimed, many people couldn't resist moving their eyes. Zuomo's body was covered in red, gold, and silver. He was standing upright like a spear. His features were still twisted, but it gave people a completely different feeling. He raised his head and looked at the female Xiao. For some unknown reason, a thread of hope rose in everyone's hearts at the same time. Faster, faster. Panic flashed through Zuomo's eyes. The rampaging forces inside his body had gradually stabilized. His body had gradually returned to his control. He seemed to have entered an unfamiliar body and slowly recovered his strength. It wasn't a long process, but the timing really made him panic. Countless bits of hard lightning swam across the surface of his body, a golden liquid flowed in his bones, the channels were filled with pure and crimson earth fire, his body that had been tempered again. His body had undergone another breakthrough, but at this time, there was no joy in him. He looked with panic at the figure above him. Without the purple fire, the female Xiao looked as weak as a dry leaf in the wind. Boom! The female Xiao's figure sank again, her long hair flying. Faster! Zuomo's heart suddenly ached. Boom! The female Xiao sank once more. Sparks flew off the purple fire disk and it showed signs of collapsing. Motherfucking faster! Zuomo's eyes suddenly turned red. Boom! The female Xiao was like a nail that was being hammered down and unable to stop. Boom! The purple fire disk finally could not stand it anymore. It turned to countless wisps of purple fire and disappeared into the air. The female Xiao seemed to be heavily struck. Her eyes unfocused, her body dropped down at an even more rapid rate. Zuomo's mind exploded, his body exploded and suddenly became open. All of his strength suddenly poured into his body like water. He disappeared from his spot. In the air, his figure was arched. His back towards the sky, the female Xiao was shielded against his chest. His right hand held a handful of golden thread lightning walnuts. Like he was crazy, he threw them viciously at the howling sword essence. Go away. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.